Yes. United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so trustees, have you had a chance to review the agenda? Do we have any questions or feedback? Okay, all right, moving on then to recognitions. Superintendent Welts, do we have someone who will be representing the group? Okay.
Here she normally sits in the rear of the. Look closer to me.
Thank you, Ms. Shawn.
Thank you. National Board Certified Teachers uphold the profession's highest standards, profoundly impacting learning outcomes for students and making a lasting impression on schools and communities. By pursuing board certification, these educators have demonstrated an unwavering dedication to their students' success. We have 3 educators who went through the maintenance of certification process and are now certified for another 5 years. So congratulations to Katie Latursky, Kristen Linz, and JD Zakovi. And we have 9 newly certified board teachers. They bring our total for National Board Certified Teachers in the district up to 68. Blown them away. We are way ahead. So, all right. So some of these people are not here, but we're going to clap anyway because I'm a big clapper person. They hear us wherever they are. But the other ones, if you are here, please come up. So I know Anna Alger is not here, but Anna Alger she is at Jim Darcy. So congratulations to Anna. Let's see. Oops, I almost missed one. Shannon Berry Brown. She here? Yay! I'm up here. You can stay right here.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Stay right here. Is Sammy Conrad here?
She's not.
Sammy Conrad is at Jefferson. Is Jennifer Dickey here? You see her? Yay! From CR Anderson. Yay, congratulations. I know that Molly Cahotek is not here. She is at Helena High School. So congratulations to Molly. Jeremy Muir. Did I see Jeremy? Yay, Jeremy Muir from CR Anderson. Congratulations. I saw Chelsea Smith. Yay, congratulations. From Central. Yay. And wait, did I give you 2?
Yeah.
Sorry, Lacey. Lacey Svingen. Is Lacey here? Lacey's at Helena High as well. And Andrea Tucker. Is Andrea here? She is at Rossiter too, correct? All right. So there we go. I think they want you to say something. You guys, that's what I was told, was you all can say something.
We did it.
Come on. Say something.
You guys notes. She wrote something.
Yeah. All right. Somebody came prepared.
Oh, that's just because it's funny. I'm nervous to talk in front of adults, but kids, I'm fine. I just want to say that it was a lot of work, a lot. However, it was affordable, and I'm grateful that I pushed through because of the respect and recognition and the benefits that come with being a national board certified teacher. My specific is ENSECYA MMD, exceptional needs specialist, early childhood, young adult, something with mild to moderate disabilities. Anyway, that was a lot of acronyms. Yes, thank you. I know I'm a good teacher, and in doing national boards, I proved it with evidence. This experience really helped me reflect on my teaching practices and what's best for my students with exceptional needs.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for this recognition. Becoming a national board certified teacher was a challenging and meaningful journey, and I'm grateful for the support I received along the way. I'm proud to continue growing as an educator and serving our students each day. Thank you again.
What a pain. I'm glad that's over. But the takeaways are so many teachers in our district are already doing this stuff. They just have to take the course and write it down. We have so many highly qualified teachers that are already practicing these. And the biggest one is the differentiation of instruction. Like that really helped. That's really something I could take home to the classroom. So if you run into people and they're having doubts, they're already doing it. Just give them a little encouragement and they could get certified too. Yeah.
Um, I guess, thank you. I feel like I'm on an Academy Award. I'd like to thank my family for supporting me and my colleagues. I couldn't have done it without them. And then, like all the other three educators said, it was an excellent experience. I think I really grew in my skills and knowledge of teaching. I look forward to continuing to challenge myself to grow as an educator and seek, leadership opportunities or better ways to help improve education in this district and the state and as a whole. I have something in mind, so I'll be back talking later. But anyways, yeah, and thank you for the district for recognizing this opportunity and for all of the support that we get as teachers in this area. So thanks.
And thank you, everyone. We appreciate you coming and those who weren't able to make it. An underlining thread was how hard it is to accomplish this. So thank you for your dedication to the profession and to our students. Okay. Mr. Welts, are you ready?
I am ready. Yeah, we'll see. Jane's going to depart. She'll jump back online here a little bit later.
Okay.
She's done a nice job, maybe in recognition of our National Board Certified. They talked about how hard it is. I think what's important, if I ad lib a little and think about what they just went through. So I spent time in the classroom and my energy was always around what I could do better on my lesson planning, preparing for what's the next day for students. We as educators, we often not think about ourselves and our growth. We always think about the students that we're in front of. So for them to put themselves out there and think about how am I going to get better in the profession, that's later in our journeys and master's degrees and doctorals. And but for them to go through National Board Cert and the efforts it takes, not only is it a reflection of what they want to do for students, but I also commend them for wanting to do what's best for themselves. And that's really important in this profession. We are a bunch of givers, and as an education, it's really important that they take care of themselves and do that as well. So well done. Jane's going to jump back on here a little bit later. I think she can be proud of her membership at large. I tried to set her up there. We do have the most National Board Certified in all the AA's. And so she didn't take recognition for that, but it was certainly noted. And we've talked about that for the last couple of years, that we have a really dedicated group of staff members, and I want to thank them for their work. All right, so my superintendent report has always gone through recognition, new business, and then of course outreach. I don't go through the outreach. There's a lot. There's going to be 2 or 3 columns here pretty soon. There's a lot happening. But I'm going to get back back to the top of this, and on a serious note, I really want to make sure that we recognize and understand the hardship over the winter break that we've had. All right, Pell endured a tragedy, and our hearts, our thoughts are with them. Mr. McKay has been with them throughout the loss of a student there, and has spent days with them. He also attended the funeral here Friday afternoon, and so him and the staff and those that are taking care of our students at PAL, by far most, that is the most important stuff that we do. You'll see a real comprehensive and robust list of things that are happening in a new business in this district. Nothing's more important. I don't care even if it's academics, nothing's more important than the well-being of our students. And we are truly acknowledging the efforts that our staff is going through to take care of the PAL students and those other schools that our student had passed through, on his way through PAL. So our thoughts and prayers with the PAL family and friends of our student. With that recognition, here we go. it seems like it was years ago, but we just went through a winter break. It seems like it'd been a while ago, but I want to, things that we see our students doing, recognition wouldn't, I'd be remiss by not saying that, the food drives, the toy collection, the fundraisers, the various service projects that took place, that our students are taking care of other students and families. That's heartfelt, right? That's really important stuff. I have staff members, the day that we got out, was that the 19th of December that we released everyone? It was close there. I have someone in this room that's working for us said, I want to go help families, and went to and got cash and gift cards and made sure that Helena High, Capital, and PAL students were taken care of. That's the spirit. I want to make sure that we recognize people that work for us, that do great things, not only students, but our adults that take care of kids and families in times of needs. And the holiday spirits really resembled that in Helena Public Schools did a miraculous job at that. We brought back, I will say, winter programs were back, and it was great to see that. I want to thank the music teachers, the PE teachers, the staff that help facilitate all of our winter programs that our community comes to love and enjoy. And we're glad that those are back through a lot of hard work. January is School Board Recognition Month. I believe that after that bug gets out of my face, we will have, there's a HEF Helena Education Foundation will be honoring you and our traditional lunch at the Mediterranean. So look for an invite there. That's coming up pretty soon. Law Enforcement Appreciation Month in January. We have a really great relationship with our Helena Police Department, but more so in that, also our SROs that work with our students and our staff on a daily basis. So we want to recognize them. It seems like every month I want to make sure that we acknowledge Callie Asham and the Chamber for the work that they're doing. Right now, I said in December, but Callie and I got together, said we want to continue the community outreach, and so we're doing Pines and Projects as we move forward. The next one will be February 25th. If you must know, they're called Brews and Blueprints, but that'll take place at 5:30 again. And we had one last week, 2 weeks ago. It seems probably last week, and we had 50 to 60 individuals there again. So great turnout. People want to know what's happening, and I think it's a great venue. We asked our architects and construction manager, Dick Anderson, was there to help just talk to the public and say, this is what we're doing. This is where we're headed. So I had help with our professional service teams. I believe that we had one or two coaches here for the speech and debate tournament. I think Siobhan was doing a little judging last weekend. So thanks for doing that. Of course, communications, Taylor Lassiter was pushing pretty hard. We were short on judges, and so I think she pushed hard to make sure that we had enough. And so I thank you that volunteered for that work. Excuse me. As we heard, congratulations to the newly certified board, national board teachers. And lastly, just the recognition. And I probably forget others, but there's the windstorm that took place. First of all, and I didn't put it in my notes, but I want to thank the community. Mr. McKay came up and said, hey, it sounds like there's some wind brewing around Missoula. And so we looked, and it wasn't forecasted. We just didn't see it coming. Probably should have. And as we looked at that, was 60 to 70 mile an hour sustains with 80 to 90 gusts. And that got my attention. So Mr. McKay and I sat down quickly and made a couple of phone calls, wanted to hear evidence, and hey, what's the weather supposed to be doing? He let us know. Call first student. Where does the bus not want to be in a 60 mile an hour? On the highway. We don't want, anything that's high profile, broadside as a bus would be. We really don't want to run our buses at 60 miles an hour or above. Well, we're gusting the 90s, so this is going to be a problem. Garbage cans that happen to go vertical and sideways past people. And our newscaster or our weatherman said that it's supposed to peak at 3:30. Well, that's right when we're letting kids out. So we needed to make a decision. So it was an easy decision. We're gonna release early. We're gonna get buses back in the barn before it hits hard, and we want to make sure our kids that are walking home are not dodging trash cans in trees. There was a microburst that came through. It came out of Carroll, hit Memorial Park, and then this campus. This campus got hit the hardest. We lost 3 trees. One tipped over and broke out the windows and took out the gutters there and landed on the roof. And then the other 2 broke out the tops. It damaged all of them. So when you see now, I'll have to tell you a story. I took a picture of the tree that broke, and I said, that's the wrong one, Todd. I want the other one to go. It's really hard to see the front of this building, and I thought we needed to clean them up, and that one tree was the one. About 30 minutes later, he sent me a text, said, "We got your wish." That tree fell over. And so we were able to actually move forward with cleaning it up. And I know it's really hard to get rid of trees, but the 4 or 5 that we had to take out were also damaged. And I think a lot of that, I'm no arborist by any means, but typically we'd be hit frozen ground, and in a windstorm, we'd be solid anchored in with root systems, but things are moist. We had a lot of moisture, a lot of unfrozen ground. And so as that 60 to 80 hit, we were tipping trees over. And so we took them all out. It does look a little barren, but I don't know if I'll have many people out in the back looking for the front of the building like I used to when all the trees were here. So it may have helped in the long run. But also I want to acknowledge that's a long way around the opportunity to thank Todd, Rob Brewer for their efforts to get this cleaned up. It was quite a mess, a login opportunity at best. Actually, Shane, Alec, and I got the chance. If there's a chance that I can run a chainsaw, I found a need. And so the morning after, we knew that we had 8 o'clock meetings. And so the 3 of us went out and bucked up a couple trees just so we can get people in. It was more of an excuse just to fire up a chainsaw. New business. All right, this is going to take a little longer, but I think that the efforts that I want the trustees to know that though we are in the middle of substantial and thankful projects, there are other things happening in this district, right? And so bear with me for a minute, but this is what's going on top of an already robust schedule of facilities. Taylor Lasser's done a really nice job in building off the foundation from what Sam has now in Janelle and Barb Ridgway and Karen Ogden around our IEP, or the tax credit. So remember, that's the money that's 1-for-1. Instead of paying taxes to the state, it comes back to the school district. That form's still out there. It's on our website. If you need more information, feel free to check that out. But those forms are due January 20th. Kindergarten registration for fall of 2026 opened. Remember the days in the valley where we'd open, parents would line up at 4 a.m. We changed that to that we won't take them until noon. So we stopped the early morning rush that we are now accepting applications at noon. And what I understand in the research I found this morning, talking to my 2 assistant soups, that we're ahead of where we're at from last year, this year, with the number of kindergartners. That's good news because we were a little concerned about our numbers. So we're a little ahead. I don't know what that looks like at the end of the game when we're fully registered, but the news is that we're a little further along than we have been. Mount Ascension Charter School preliminary registration for the second semester closes 21st, so that our new charter school for the high school registration and enrollment's starting to take place. Kindersprouts. We are starting to screen. So our 4-year-old program that has helped us with our enrollment numbers, we have 144 slots, 8 classrooms this year. All right, that's up from 2 classrooms last. We have 144 slots. We are screening students to get into those. Every one of our screening appointments is filled, or they are filled. And so that means that we'll go through it. If they're in or out, we won't know, but we are screening to fill 144. And it's good progress. So we're moving through the process of getting our Kindersprouts on board for next year's. You'll hear more from the facilities bond projects, but the PAL Precedent tours, what's happening at Kessler, what's taking place at Capitol, those will be from our architect teams and our one GCCM here this evening. So I'm not going to take that thunder out. I want you to also know that we started to grow our own. We talked about that a couple of times. We've talked about in our board leadership. We have a process for paras to become teachers, and now we have teachers, and I put in parentheses staff because it's not all teachers. I have an individual in technology that's not a teacher that wants to grow the leadership skills. So we're running a grow our own from leadership from that position to from teacher to staff to leadership. And so right now we closed that out. We have 22 individuals. Our kickoff meeting will start tomorrow. And then what I see is seminars, and giving seminars once a month through the end of the year. And then what I want to do, as I got the opportunity, is to have exposure as a leader in a building, maybe when a principal or assistant principal is out of the building, so we can have the opportunity for experience when our principals are absent. So that's ongoing work. You're going to hear tonight from CMS, which is our Communication and Management Services here in Helena. We've been working with CMS. I hope that's not a new term for you. We've been with them for about 2 years now. And that really came out of that effort around when when the district did their own market analysis and it didn't go well, right? And they said, we'll never do that again. So we hired someone to do that work, and that's CMS. And so that's why they're here. You'll see it tonight. We've been working on compensation philosophy, pay plan rules. We have two payroll groups that are not unionized, and that is the independents and the admin team. And so we want to make sure that they're recognized into this process. And then I've asked for an activity and athletic coaching compensation market analysis. That's something we haven't done for a long time. Many districts run their coaches and activities, their sponsors, off the base of the contract. And so if there's a 2% raise or a 1% raise at the base, that also affects others in the coaching realm. That's not what Helena does. And so I think we've lost ground with them, and I don't want to make that number up. And so we've asked CMS to do that work so that we know what we're talking about when we go to address it. So that's being worked on right now. I think it's important to note that we're also concentrating on academics. We are always working on academics, and that's not, other than safety, this academic is our second most important thing that we do in this district. We're looking at academic performance and indicators and targets. So that's work that's being done for the 26-27 school year. What are those indicators? What do we report that indicates that we're doing what we say we're going to do? And so we're going to flesh those out. So the indicators and our performance standards are going to be worked out through the spring. I've talked about at the July board meeting, work session, not a retreat. We are working on our data dashboard, and we're continuing to work on that. We need the indicators and targets to make sure we know what the dashboard looks like, right? What are we putting on the dashboard? If we don't know what those indicators are, then we can't mark it out the dashboard. And we're also looking at the correlation between behaviors and academics, and how does that affect growth or student academics. So those are there. We will make sure that we highlight at the end of the night, we're working on House Bill 332, which is Bridge Alliance. We've had meetings, and we've had more meetings, and we've had a lot of questions and more meetings. And so that continue. We had a meeting last week. Yes, it was last week. There was questions that generated out of that. The committee, the Health Insurance Committee, could not make a decision to bring forward a recommendation for the full board. They have more questions, and so those questions are being generated. They'll be pushed back to John Dorn, and then he'll come back and answer those questions. At some point, we need to make that decision because the deadline was November. And now we're sitting in December, January, and probably February before that. So we're going to have to get to a point where we're making a decision around that soon. Probably at some point tonight, we will discuss what that looks like and why, what's going to happen at a long-term effect of why we run into Bridge versus not. So we'll have that conversation perhaps later. We ran an early retirement teacher and administrative incentive. Right now, those packages have closed. We have this morning when I checked in, we had 13 teachers for this year and 10 next. Remember, that was a 15-10 2-year process. At this point, it looks like 13 teachers for the 26th year, which is the end of this, and then 10 the additional. We had 2 administrators that could have taken the package. It looks like we may have 1. And so I'll have more on that as soon as we work through the details. And that story is the individual story to tell. And so we're going to work through that process so that we can announce it appropriately and everyone knows in the cascading order that we normally go through. We have talked a lot. There's been a lot of energy around cell phones as of late. This evening, I think when we were sitting in through the screening for the GCCM out of the Capitol side, I must have received 15 to 20 emails around cell phone. There's a lot of energy there. It's worthy of discussion, and it's on both sides. The individuals and the families that call in and say complete ban. Well, I also on the other side, I'll have someone say no ban, right? And so there's not one size that fits anyone. And I know that these 2 individuals have they have some ideas around that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that energy. We're going to have some community discussions, what that looks like. We'll run those through the spring, and I'm going to look for some recommendation to me and back to the board for the next school year. But we're going to have some conversations around what that looks like. I do believe that what we've done in the past around budgets, the negotiations and having a consensus model of some sort makes a lot of sense. If that's not where we're going to go, then we run it through the policy. I spoke to Missoula this evening, their superintendent. They ran it through their policy committee. They had 3 or 4 meetings. They ran it through that process. I'm going to bring to you in February some options, and I'm going to need some direction. Do you want me to run it through a consensus, or you want to run it through policy? But I do know this, is that at some point, we're going to need to have community or at least our parents and our staff and our students to have that conversation, right? So we can make important decisions that's based on conversations versus just what we hear from one side or the other. So more to come on the cell phone. I'm not kicking it down the road. I'm actually going to spin it up and have more meaningful conversations around those. Mr. Myers and I, Gary Myers, we're working on the print center equipment lease contracts and looking for efficiencies. And that's not from people, as from old Volkswagen-sized printers that have lost their ability to print fast. And more importantly, what does it look like for our schools' sites to send copies or proofs to the copy center and then getting it back to the schools in a timely manner? And so those contracts are up, those leases are up. And so Mr. Myers and I are working through a process to get those back up to a higher standard and more efficient standard. So more to come around that. I am taking Dr. Alberts and Mr. McKay and I to Nashville. It is not for the national championship, Mr. Meyer. It is for, there's a AASA conference. It's a national conference. We haven't been to one for a while. I've attended. If we're going to move our district, I want to know what's going on the national level as well. And we haven't been able to do that for a while. And so we're going to spend 2 days or 3 on Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, and come back Saturday. So we're going to take off on a conference. I needed one. I want to see what that looks like, and we may bring others later, but I want to take us 3 for the first time around. I also wanted you to know that isn't the first time you hear it, and we'll hear a lot more of it. In a facilities discussion, we are in the early process of looking at RFPs for Front Street post-PAL movement. Once PAL is up and our students and staff move into the new building, we have a piece of property there that I am looking at utilizing for the benefit of this district, right? More information around that. It's just a teaser. But there's what I don't want to do is move everybody and go, I wonder what we're going to do now. All right, we're going to have plans in place so that we're not waiting months around what else can happen with Front Street. All right, so there's some conversations going there. Likewise, we have our nearly 100 buses sitting out in East Helena. I'm looking at transportation facilities, not through general funds and or bonds. I'm looking at relocating our buses onto ground that we control. That first student's contract then would run back to the school district and not to an individual that's not part of the school. So it decreases the route mileage, which we have to charge for. So that gets our buses closer, and 2, potentially that lease or contract would come back to the school district and not out of the school district. So I'm looking at transportation facility planning, a new facility for them within the city limits, and reduce our mileage. We ran out for a Hawthorne Elementary and May Butler Center RFPs for long-term lease and or purchase. Those opened up yesterday, and we had one. We had a long-term lease proposal for Hawthorne, right? No interest in May Butler. We'll have to think about that later. We had no interest for purchase of Hawthorne, but we did have an interest for a long-term lease or a partnership with Hawthorne. And we're a little excited about this. We're going to run this through, I want to vet it through legal counsel, make sure that we're there. We'll score it. We have a rubric through legal counsel, make sure we score it. We'll run it through through their eyes, and then we'll bring it back to the facilities with a recommendation, then a full board for approval. But really what it's looking for is it's an open and community discussion around a nonprofit organization called Hawthorne Community Center Helena, HCCH. It's for a 2-year plan at this time to establish a multi-purpose community center in the current Hawthorne Elementary School. So much like what I'm reading, it would be something like the Emerson Center out of the Bozeman. It's an arts place, it's an office space, it's for ballet, whatever. It's a community use area, which I think is highly valuable. I met with the individual over winter break. I think it's a good idea. It's a phased-in approach. I like that, where we're going to work a year or 2 to make sure it's viable, and then we'll generate more contract lease options as we know that's going to be sustainable. So more to come, but I'm excited that we're not going to sit on a building that's going to sit there and be dormant. Right? We want activity and we want liveliness in the neighborhood. And so I think that's a good fit at this time. And then we'll make sure that we communicate that to the public. Also, in this efforts and what we've been doing over the last month or two, Dr. Plucker is working. He's a specialist around the peak and or gifted and talented programs nationally. We have brought him in to do an analysis of our gifted and talented, our peak program. And so he's working from afar. He's doing Zoom meetings, but he's meeting with individuals, he's meeting with teachers, and he's going to give us a recommendation of things that we're doing well and areas that we might be able to grow. And so we're going to use that. And that was a connection from Jenny, our trustee, that did some work under Dr. Plucker. Her recommendation that he does great work. We've vetted it out with him. He's doing superb. And I hope that we will see a report or some recommendations within this month, early next, right? And I will tell you, we know that there's interest from our community, what that looks like, right? And so it's going to help us have conversations around, not from us, but from a third party that's a specialist in the area to help us have those conversations. We also are working through with Amoresco energy audits across the district and specifically around the elementary. I started this idea with LED lighting upgrades and in performance energy contracting, meaning that they're going to guarantee the savings. We, in facilities this week, was reported upon how this could help the district move through upgrading our facilities under a performance contract that's guaranteed savings through the life of the contract. So more coming to you. That came through the facilities subcommittee. It'll come to the full board for approval and explanation. So that's coming on. We're also, through my weekly superintendent meetings, Great Falls Superintendent, Ms. Hoyer, is hearing a little through the base up there, the military base, that January 30th is a pretty important time. That was where the bill sponsored the continued movement of the government, the running of the government, and that will sunset on the 30th. And I want to be real mindful that we may find ourselves in another government shutdown once that bill expires or that funding expires. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm going to be proactive enough to know that we're going to get our federal dollars asked for and come in our direction before that deadline so that we're not caught up in the loophole of what a week or 2 or 3 or a month, whatever that might look like. So we're being mindful of what possible could be another shutdown. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but we want to be mindful of that. Otherwise, no school on the 19th to 26th. We have to have another day off in February, as we talked about. And then you'll see the outreach below that. That is my superintendent report.
Thank you, Superintendent Wells. Always well received and very thorough. We certainly appreciate it. So I'll open it up. Did any of our trustees have questions or comments for Superintendent Wells? Sorry.
We do have one online from Chair McKee
Okay,
and Jamie as well for trusting.
beautiful. Okay, can we hear from Trustee McKee first?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you so much. I wanted to just say a couple of things. Mr. Welts, I appreciate the leadership regarding cell phone usage. It's something that adults and kids are thinking about, our community's thinking about it. We do have practices in place, but it's time to start having a bigger conversation about just sharing what those practices are and gathering more voices at the table about whether or not we should keep going down the path we're going. So I appreciate your leadership on that. And also so much the buildings are your leadership around Hawthorne Elementary and what becomes of that building. I'm just glad to see that that's moving down the road. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee McKee. Appreciate your comments. Okay.
I just had a quick question.
Oh, we can't really hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Yes, I was also along the lines for the cell phone discussion. I know that the Montana Association of Student Councils has discussed this at length, and they have brought forward resolutions, and they've had a very lively debate with students across the state. So I wonder if some of our high school student council representatives might be able to be included in that discussion. I think the student perspective on this issue is very important, and I know that students at that association have been thinking about this rather deeply.
Thank you. Yep. Any other questions or comments? Oh, I actually just had one because I'm really, really excited about the Grow Your Own program. So I was curious, is there a time frame? So folks who choose to go on that path or participate in the program, what does that look like with how long and like the extent that they can continue to utilize it? Or have there been parameters set for that?
Can you see me thinking about that? The
That's okay.
duration. So right now, this is in the inaugural state. We have it planned out through June, and actually the June date is to be determined. I'm not quite sure what that date's going to look like because it's end of the school year, and I don't know if it's some sort of a celebration. And then what next? I don't have this planned out for the 26-27 school year in terms of if this same cohort wants to continue on. Does it mean that they get onto a list now that they've gone through the procedures? And I see the seminars as being around bringing in Lana Carter in around special ed, and what's an hour and a half of special ed, 101 at 60,000 feet. What does that look like? Bringing in our legal counsel in March, and for an hour and a half of legal, this is what it looks like. Mr. McKay and Dr. Alberts talking about these are the procedures. If you're in the building and a fire alarm goes off, what does it look like? What can you share and what can you not share from parents? So those are the seminar pieces to it. And once you go through that aspect, I want to reanalyze where we're at. Then they move on to a list that we can call upon when absent, and then start another cohort of individuals that are interested. Probably a little smaller in the year two, but I haven't had that all fleshed out. I just know that we're going to build it as I used to say that we were flying the airplane. We'll learn how to fly it or land it later. But at this point, as a pilot over there probably doesn't. That's not a great analogy. But we're going to get it off the ground. What I don't want to do is sit here and think about what are we going to do next? How are we going to make this work? And then spin our wheels to the point where we never do anything. I want to be able to offer the experience to individuals to be in a building and help lead through that. And that's really how I got started. And I want to continue that experience for others. More to come on that one. Trustee Walsh.
Thanks for including the things that fall out. I don't want to say outside, but right when we're thinking about a teacher and their role and responsibilities, and then things like, well, how do you communicate emergencies to parents and those types of things that are seem to not be.
Yeah, we recognize that we're going to have individuals that, I only want to be in an elementary school. Others are going to say, I want to be in a high school. Others are going to say, I don't want any of that experience. And so we're going to have people all over the place in that leadership model mindset. And so we're going to have to do a lot of work fleshing out what is your comfortability, where do you see yourself growing, and what can we do to help you get there? That's where we're at.
That's great. Really, really excited to hear how that goes. Okay. All right. So then we're going to move on to general public comment. This is a time for comment on public matters that are not on the agenda. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel issues, or private student issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time or you will be ruled out of order. The board cannot enter into a discussion during general public comment. Do we have anybody in person who would like to provide general public comment? Okay. Do we have anybody online? Oh, okay, please come on up.
You're in person.
Just be sure to state your name and the relationship to the district.
You got it. I'm Amanda Osborne, Osborne. I've got 2 kids at Capitol High School, and I'm just going to keep talking about the cell phone thing since we have momentum. I'm going to keep plowing forward. There are places this has been done, as I mentioned last month, and I think there is some disagreement as to what a cell phone ban means. And I would urge you as a board, who we have elected to be our leaders and who we yield the leadership to realize that cell phone ban means physical separation from phones at school. So whatever sort of process you move forward with, if that is public forums, I don't think the debate should be centered around whether or not schools or cell phones should be allowed at schools. If you look at the evidence, it's quite clear that smartphones have no place in the classroom. I think you should focus your energy on how to implement that and what that looks like. And there are a lot of places you can look to do that. The state of Iowa has a cell phone ban, which is statewide. That was put down by the legislature in 2025. And so then it became up to the school districts as to what that looks like. So if we're just talking about mitigating the use of personal electronic devices, well, I think you'd say Helena already does that. But if you text my children anytime during the school day, you will get a response from them within 20 minutes, which tells me that they have access to their phones during school. And for the record, I'm not worried about my kids. My kids are fine. But there's a lot of at-risk kids that the only time of the day where they have focused time is school. So if we could provide that to them. So I would urge you as our leaders that we have elected to focus your energy on how implementation looks. And some fun statistics for you. A school in Arkansas after a cell phone restriction in school reports in middle school 14% reduction in fights. Another school in another state reports 64% increase in checkout of library books. So you can look around and not take very long to look around to realize that I think this would be the right move for us as a community and for our kids if you would agree with me that your job is to provide the optimal environment for learning for our students. Thanks.
Do we have anybody else in person? Okay, and do we have anyone online? No? Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move on down the agenda. Items for information. Do you want to kick us off, Superintendent Sweltz? Do I have that right? You're kind of looking a little confused. Helena, I can't, am I? Number 6 for new business? Yeah, okay.
I also housekeeping. Remember, these mics are hot. In committee meetings, we use the owl, but these mics are hot. So when you get, and they require you to get kind of personal on these things. So make sure they turn blue and then you're on top of them. Yeah, so let's go item for information, facilities bond projects. Remember, I carved this out of the superintendent report and want to make sure that the bond update is in an item for information. And I will call up Mr. Meldrum, or we on right? I'm going to make sure I'm following. Yes, it is. So the Helena High campus update, we'll talk a little bit about. We'll have A&E SMA. You see this click here for full report. It's about a 360 page document. We did print that off as well for the trustees. That's where the print shop thanked us. That was a fairly large document, but it is for all others. I didn't want to print that many out for the full public. And so that's a hot link that can be accessed through our agenda and on our website as well. We have been active in all of our bond projects, and A&E SMA kicked off first with the Helena High project. Tim will walk us through that. Remember that we also recently approved last week or right before Dick Anderson with our GCCM. And so we're thankful now that's our first complement of full team ready there. We went through a screening today with Holting and our committee for the GCCM on the capital side. And then we will do that and have that all wrapped up by February 6th, I believe, for the Kessler project, right? And so we're going to walk through. I've asked each trustee or each architect and their GCCM to update where they're at. And at this point, you'll have architect for capital and architect for Kessler, as we don't have the construction manager. So with that being said, walk us through where we were at compared to where we were last time you were here.
You bet. Yeah, thank you again. My name is Tim Meldrum with A&E and SMA Design. I want to first definitely start off by always sharing tremendous gratitude about having the opportunity to be part of this and these projects in our community. Super thrilled about all of this. So last time, and what you've really got in front of you is sort of the draft culmination of some site master planning that was just kind of a more zoomed in version of the full district master plan that we completed. And so we wanted to understand where PAL was going, where the district kitchen was going, and then what does that footprint really start to look like with regard to all of the program for the Helena High School addition and whatnot. And so really just kind of we wanted to make sure that before we made any major design moves that we understood what the site was capable of. We got that kind of worked out and submitted in a draft master plan for the site. And then also the area model and education specifications, basically all of the spaces and needs within those spaces, all the design requirements are in a document in there as well. And that's in draft form. And so we spent quite a bit of time doing that. It's a big building, and we were excited to get through that right before Christmas, and then we started to ramp up into more schematic design and some of the early arranging of block spaces on the site, taking those program elements, how big are they, how many are there, how do they stack if they're multi-story, and really start to kind of build that massing model is what we call it. And I'm just going to share a little bit of that. Not all of this is something you have in front of you, but we'll share this out as well. One thing to note, we are producing a like a district-wide dashboard where everybody can kind of submit kind of progress along the process, even through construction. So we're working on a digital dashboard that'll be part of the website, and people can log in and actually see where some of the progress is on each project. So they can and not just in a board report, it'll be a little bit more catered to each project and a little more information. So so these blocking plans as are on the screen there, and I'll probably try to cruise through this pretty quick, Gary, so hopefully you'll have a hot finger. So we really, this is kind of a snapshot of some of the studies that we looked at. We looked at arranging the spaces on the site, and just to kind of orient you, you can kind of see that so right along the right side there, that is Roberts Street. So just to the right of these blocking plans would be Helena College. The kind of that South Street is Billings Avenue. So Montana Avenue, and the existing Helena High School would be kind of to the left. So just as you can kind of see, there's an X on the lower part of the massing there. That is the existing Helena High School gym. So that's kind of what we're building off of. That's kind of what we're radiating from to the north. And we kind of generally want to understand programmatically, how do these things start to lay out? What needs to be on the first level? What could be on the second level? And a lot of times, like lab spaces, science rooms, and those kind of things often want to be on the third level just because of some of the ventilation requirements through the roof and those sorts of things. And so you start to arrange those things, and you start to see how they kind of play out on the site. And some of the bigger moves, like the CTE and shop spaces, they have to be on the main level. Where do they go? They're big. The Performing Arts Center, that's another one. It's got to be on the main level, and it's big. Those are big moves. And then auxiliary gym and locker rooms and all those things, you start to kind of plop those things down and then get some classrooms in there. And a lot of times they're a little more nimble, but they're also one of the most critical parts of the design. So we want to make sure that goes well. The green is usually the green and light green, you're going to see are more educational spaces. Typically the pink is kind of that commons space. The dark purple is that Performing Arts Center. The kind of peachy color is that existing gym space. The orange color is the auxiliary gym and weight room spaces. And see, I think that's pretty much generally everything. And then this concept in the middle, and we kind of break them out in, like, the one on the left is called Spine of Glass. The one on the right is called Main Street, where it's really just kind of like one long corridor with things kind of spined off of it. And then the Spine of Glass is really more of a spine that is, the commons is actually stretched north-south, and everything's kind of branching off of the commons space. So it's kind of one big giant corridor. And in our precedent tours that we had with the educators and administrators, they kind of made it clear that they didn't really like those kind of linear commons that we got to experience. It created a really great kind of circulation experience, but the usability was pretty diminished other than circulation. So having it a little bit more of a commons where it was a little bit larger space, that was actually a better option. And so what it kind of does, though, is it kind of generally creates, based on the restriction of, there's kind of a white bar that's just to the northwest of the existing gym. Gary, I don't know if you can point to that, but that kind of white bar that's underneath there, that vertical white bar, that is the existing arts wing of the existing Helena High School. And so, and if you've ever walked out of a game at the Helena High School and you see, so there's that arts wing that's just to the north of that. And it's ideal if we can design this and not have to demolish, or not have to wait to demolish that, or not have to demolish it early, I should say. And so the concept on the left kind of requires demolishing that wing early, and then Brian Kessler would have to find that alternative during the construction of the project. So it became kind of paramount that we try to do that. And during the master plan, we kind of knew that was maybe a potential thing to do, but once we dug into it, we kind of see that we can actually solve that without demolishing that early. And so, and that creates kind of a courtyard need. And so a lot of the questions came up around, well, we don't want courtyards. We've got courtyards and they're not maintained well, and they can collect garbage and those kind of things. And so it's really a lot of focus on how do we design a good courtyard? How do we make it maintainable? And really, in order to keep natural light in the classrooms as well as air and access, we kind of just have to have a ring around it, kind of a courtyard concept. Otherwise, we can't splay out onto the site very well because of the existing CTE building and the existing art wings and Robert Street. There's really just kind of a limitation on where we can go. So creating a courtyard was a little bit necessary in there, and we'll get kind of more on that. So go to the next one, Gary. That one was what was preferred and selected, and this is kind of generally how it lays out with the full site. There's a couple of other levels on the left. There's 2 white slides that are on the left there. Those are the level 2, level 3 of this concept. But you can see we kind of made it a little more rectilinear, but we're really kind of excited about the fact that we don't have to demolish that art wing very, very early or at any earlier than the rest of it. And then you can see where the football field and track kind of lay out and how that's all fitting. The purple, the light purple, kind of that periwinkle color or whatever is kind of is all parking. So we're trying to maximize parking as well since we have such a small footprint. And go ahead and go to the next one, Gary. Oh, so you'll see this here in a minute. That's actually I got a better view of this, so that's obviously a messed up slide. So these are kind of just courtyard vignettes is what we call them. We kind of like do some early development of what it could look like from an access standpoint. We want to make sure we're working with facilities and they can understand how they can get in and out of that courtyard with maintenance equipment and those kind of things. So we feel like we can either block it off completely and we just kind of have a blocked in courtyard, or we can maybe have it's wide open and atmospherically it's open and there's no connection in the first floor. You have a bridge on the second floor. But there's no connection on the first floor, so it's all just open. They can bring snow removal equipment or anything like that right into that courtyard, and that's something we looked at. And like maybe these are like accordion style doors where we can kind of glass it in, and it's just concrete floors in the corridor there anyway. We can open up those doors and we can let maintenance through. And go ahead and go to the next one, Gary. There's a couple versions of this. Like is it just double doors? And then the next one is it more of an exterior gate? And so and go ahead and go to the next one, Gary. So we wanted to make sure that this is a really sensitive issue to the building occupants and to the teachers and to the facilities groups. We want to make sure that this is smartly done. So we're taking a lot of study to that. And so we kind of masked that courtyard and want to make sure it's also programmatically usable and experiential for the students and teachers. And it's something that actually becomes an outdoor classroom, if you will. There's actually some pretty strategic class opportunities to put adjacent to a courtyard, like culinary and arts. Those 2 types of uses really kind of benefit from a protected courtyard where you're not kind of letting the kids out into just the open in general. Go ahead and go on, Gary. This is kind of a view down and what a courtyard like that could feel. It's much bigger than any courtyard that is actually at the existing Helena High School. And these aren't the current designs. They're kind of vignettes. They're kind of what we call like speed designs, where we're kind of just like jumping into what it could look like. There might be less glazing, more glazing, but we from a cost standpoint, they're probably going to be less. I'm just kind of looking at the contractors in the room. But then go ahead and go to the next one, Gary. But we also look at these precedent images where we can kind of generally understand, will we have some planting in there? Probably minimal. We don't want to have to maintain too much, but we also want it to be experiential. So we kind of want to balance those scales. Go on to the next one. Same thing. We're like, how does that courtyard feel from the adjacent corridors? And not all corridors are lining that courtyard because there's some classrooms that do, but there are some walking spaces that actually can look out to those that can be utilized as study spaces or breakout spaces. Go ahead. Same thing from just more hallway circulation studies. We wanted to make sure people understand that we can kind of make some of those circulation spaces a little bit bigger, so there can be, again, non-programmed breakout study spaces, collision spaces where people can kind of do group study on a off period or something, and more cozy spaces where you can have group meetings or whatever. And then we're getting into some more of the real design there. Keep going, Gary. Same kind of thing. We're not just looking at precedent images now. Now this is kind of in our developed massing model where we're starting to kind of develop and scratch the surface of what our actual classroom adjacencies are. Keep going. And then this is more of a zoom in on kind of where some of these classrooms are adjacent to the courtyard, and just generally how the classrooms are laying out with all the other fixed spaces like bathrooms and support spaces, mechanical spaces, vertical circulation, stairs, library spaces. Just in the courtyard general, we wanted to make sure that people understood highly what all is happening in this sort of ring around the courtyard is what we called it. Okay, keep going. You might have to zoom out on this one. So this is really just more of this is kind of the final couple slides, but the kind of generally how this building is massing out. And we're a little further than this, actually. We're starting to actually kind of what we call skin the building with materials, exterior materials, and what does it all kind of look like from a fenestration, doors and windows. But we're currently, like in this next week, we're working with the building committee, and they haven't even seen a lot of that yet. So we want to, but they have seen a lot of this massing. You can see kind of how it, and go ahead and go to the next one, Gary. You can see how it kind of builds up. There's a 3-story wing on the north. And then there's a lot of taller facilities like the performing arts, that fly loft that you can see that is part of that big purple. So the PAL is it's kind of that magenta color on the south, and then the auxiliary gym is that kind of yellow orange color, and then just to the north of that, all the purple, that darker purple, that's actually kind of the arts drama kind of area, and that fly loft where all the scenes kind of retract up into the roof. That's just that's like 45, 50 feet tall. And so we want to make sure it's kind of buried in there and not right up against the street. And so we've been studying those kind of things. And then the music is all back there as well, band room, choir room, a lot of storage. But it's all fitting, and we had to get a little bit vertical on it, but it's all fitting really well. And we haven't run into a whole lot of uncomfortable, like what the heck are we going to do with this? So it's all been fitting, which means that I think the master planning efforts were valid.
Can I just ask you really quick for the PAL section? I know one of the things that was really important for that group was to still feel independent.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious then, with it being meshed up against the building there, what does that look like with flow between the two facilities?
It's a great question. And we've been actually pretty excited about that part of it because they'll have their own entry on Billings Avenue. So they'll have probably even their own address if they wanted or needed that. But I think that, and they'll have their own pickup and drop off, their own parking areas. And their own commons. So they're actually quite separated, because what does separate them from the rest of Helena High School proper is all of those kind of auxiliary and gym and activity spaces. The existing auxiliary gym just at the south end of the existing main gym at Helena High School, that auxiliary gym is really kind of inferior to what is needed as an auxiliary gym in today's high school, AA high school standards. So you can see that the size of, Gary, I don't know if you can point to that kind of existing auxiliary gym. It's kind of that bottom arch there. Yeah. So that space compared to the proposed auxiliary gym in that orange area, that auxiliary gym that's there, that's kind of that southern arch there, that is way smaller than what we're proposing as an auxiliary gym for a AA high school. So what that did turn out to be really, really a good proposition for is the activity space dedicated to PAL. And it is quite separated. It's not, you don't have to circulate through any part of Helena High School. We're going to be able to work them into having access to that auxiliary gym there as their activity space without really having to build it or buy it. There's going to be some improvements to it, but hopefully pretty minimal, because it's all in decent shape. It just maybe just need to be cleaned up and some HVAC improvements and lighting. And then it'll also be used as a wrestling room after school for Helena High School wrestling use, but it programmatically that works out from a timing standpoint. So that's one way. But then the hallway that connects that magenta PAL to the commons, we want to be able to say that they can have access to the existing gym, even the drama facilities if they ever wanted to or needed to. They should have access to these amenities because they are in high school, and so programmatically we can mesh that, but also protect the timing around scheduling, so they're not kind of on the north and having to walk through parking lot. They're not having to walk through some of the education spaces. So the hallway that connects the existing gym, that east side of the existing gym, those structural ribs that come down and hit the ground. Right now, they're kind of covered up by some kind of lean-to shed structures that are just kind of storage and some pretty small classrooms and whatnot, but we're going to take those out and we're going to build kind of some circulation space right where those ribs come down. And we've even done some study vignettes of that. So people are going to be able to experience those cool structural ribs down a big hallway where the bathrooms and concessions will be for the gym and whatnot, but that'll also be some access for PAL if they ever need to use the commons and they'll have their own food facility, but they could go out and use the commons or warming kitchen or the performing arts center and that kind of thing. So it feels like it's working really well with that point exactly, is that the front of the high school will probably be two-sided really. It'll be along Roberts, but it'll also be on the other side, on the west side, where all the parking is, so I think public side, staff side, student side, but it's going to be quite different and detached from where PAL enters. That was a long answer, sorry. Yeah, we've actually been working independently with both groups. So we've been kind of challenging ourselves and challenging them to kind of say, does this still feel that way? And then they're very protective of it, which I think is very, very appropriate. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're making it clear to them through vignette and sort of quick design methods that we're able to satisfy what they're looking for.
Couple questions. Okay, is that CTE then at the far side from PAL?
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, because I know, PAL students, they do internships and quite a bit of it is CTE. So how we're gonna manage that. And then about the courtyard, thinking of the current
There should be another view from the
wonderful
north.
courtyard at Hannah High, that's a little sarcastic. How are we, because it's a tight lot, are we compensating vertically for the loss of that space on is that the trade-off?
I wasn't sure if I'm following that. Uh-huh. Right. So, okay, that's fair. So we could either, when you think about like how we would actually fill that space, what would happen is that courtyard space would then end up on the other side of everything, on the other side of the classroom. So it would just add parking, but it would eliminate windows, and so it's like creating a big box store. It would all just kind of put everything in a bigger mass, as opposed to kind of pulling it apart a little bit and putting daylight in between. If that's your question. I mean, I think that we kind of want to make sure that classroom design and double loaded corridors are usually pretty rigid with regard to just how wide they want to be. You don't want to go too wide or too narrow. It can flex a little bit, but we don't want to jam things all into one spot. Another philosophy would have been to put like the Performing Arts Center right in the middle of it. And because that doesn't need natural light, we don't really want windows into something like that. But it also then becomes, it would have worked better with more of that spine concept, to where the commons connected all of it, because it's quite expensive to have the Performing Arts Center have its own commons and kind of spill out areas. So that if we can capitalize on the same one, then it can't take up that courtyard space.
I guess what I'm thinking is we're putting more students in the same location, and we're having probably a bigger courtyard. Are we compensating that by increasing the floors?
Oh yeah, we have 3 stories of classrooms. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, we have 3 stories of classroom spaces because we just don't have the footprint to kind of expand out.
Right. And then I'm sure, I mean, we're definitely thinking about safety.
A lot.
We don't replicate too many entrances where students leave doors open for their friends and we compromise. So
There's going to be a lot fewer. There's code required exits, but they're very controlled access, and there'll be fewer of them for sure, compared to what is kind of over the decades what happened with Helena High School. And Rex, I know, has the district has us working with a security consultant that literally will be kind of tied into verifying that not too many, not too little kind of balance. And not just entrances and exits, it's a comprehensive security review. Yeah.
how are classroom sizes going to compare? Like, are they going to be like similar size to what we have now? Are they going to be bigger, smaller? Just kind of wondering about
Mhm.
that as a student right now.
Yeah, for the most part, they're a little bit bigger. You do have some larger classrooms, but for the most part, they'll be a little bit bigger. This size of education model usually is really, it lends itself well to like around a 900 square foot classroom. Just typical anyway. All the lighter green ones are kind of typically going to be the less specialty ones, kind of the general ed classrooms. That way we don't need two doors, because that also, you can, once you get over 1,000 square feet, you need two exits, two doors into each classroom. And usually you don't get that much bang for your buck because some of that circulation and whatnot. And so it kind of works out with that education model as well with regard to student to teacher ratios and whatnot. So about 900 square feet, so a little bit bigger than what you're used to. I think most of your classrooms are about 2/3 of that and maybe 700 square feet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the pickup and drop off will be right off of Billings there with some accessible parking, ADA parking. But the student parking will be across the street, kind of where there's a parking lot there that is kind of by the softball field, kind of right across that kind of kitty corner from it. That's where a lot of the student parking will be.
Have you looked, I'm interested in lockers versus, I remember 30 years ago when we did tours of high schools like in Portland and some of the
Yeah.
major areas, they were doing away with student lockers at the high school level.
Mhm.
Talk to me about what you've seen there.
Still kind of trending that way, actually. I think there's always kind of a fight of we want to have some,
Right.
but certainly not one for one with regard to student enrollment. But we will have some.
Okay.
And I think that the decision has been we're going to be pretty strategic about where they go. It'll be probably more of a freshman thing because I think that's just kind of where that trend happens. But we've done enough of that research and discussion early on to know just that much. But from a design standpoint, we haven't gotten that far zoomed in as to exactly how that plays out.
looks. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
I don't see the kitchen, or am I missing the kitchen?
So there's a kind of a darker box right to the north of the existing gym there, right below the commons. Oh, sorry,
District kitchen or
Oh.
in-house, yeah. warming.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not on this map. Sorry. It's it'll actually go, it's actually going to go up just to the north by the existing facilities building, kind of up there where Gary's pointing there. It'll be kind of up there in that corner. Yep.
It'd be right across the street from Food Share.
Yep. Yeah, and next month we'll actually probably have a pretty comprehensive look at where we're at on that, because it's actually moving pretty quickly with regard to now we know where it's located.
And we need that to move quickly because Slate with capital needs to get that out of the capital project so we can start using that as a puzzle piece to move forward with.
Yeah, not only are we getting pressure from Rex and all of that, but we're getting pressure from Scott Cromwell. Keeps calling me and asking me to move it. So. Anything else?
Very good.
Okay. Thanks for letting me take the time.
Absolutely. As we move into Board Chair, as we move into the Capitol High, I also will remind you that A&E SMA is along further. And so as we move through the architects, I want to give them the ownership of that. We're going to be in different spaces throughout these projects. And so with Slate, Jacob, and Scott, they're going to come up and talk a little bit. And I think I see RTA was with you as well, and Doug's here. Yep. So we'll talk a little bit about where they're at. I was really pleased with where we were this week and some of the concept maps that we were seeing. They were down at Capitol today on their third advisory meeting. So good things are happening out of there. And then we were last night with at Kessler with Mosaic doing a community event. Ms. Armstrong was there with us as well. So we'll move through that. I will say that as you guys move up, Jacob, Scott, and Doug, in the precedent tour with Helena High, as they went out, I heard rumors when people came back, when the staff came back, they're like, I'm so glad there was some conversation like, why are we not getting rid of the gym? Like, why are we not rebuilding that thing? And when they return, they're like, thank God we're not moving that gym, because the ones that they saw out on tour were big boxes and they were all sterile, and they didn't have the feel that we have with our current gyms now. So I'm thankful for that. And as Tim said, with we are bringing on Jason Russell. You might remember Jason Russell at SEC, Secure Education Consultants. They did all of our security audits here in the last 5 years. They are coming on. We're bringing them on board, and they're going to start looking at sight lines and all aspects around safety and security that they see from a national aspect or perspective, and not just what we see here in Montana. So there's just one more consultant, another set of eyes on our planning. The first time we will meet with them will be Thursday, when we have our Thursday meeting with SMA, and then we'll bring them in next week with Slate and the following week with Kessler. I don't know if you guys know that yet.
We do now.
Thanks for being here. Let us know how where you're at in the process, and a brief update with our trustees.
Yeah. So I'm Jacob Augenstein with Slate Architecture. Scott Cromwell is out. He's with some of the other group. We just finished up our third, but like half middle DAG group, or design advisory group meeting, right before Doug and myself ran over here. So this is Doug Abernathy, and Doug's with RTA Architects out of Colorado Springs, and we were lucky to have him here tonight because we had a design advisory group meeting. If you want to switch this slide, that'd be great. This is just a quick agenda. So we're going to go through the schedule. We're going to look at a little bit about kind of where we're at with the existing building analysis. We're going to go through the program that we went through with Josh and Brett. We're going to talk a little bit about more what this DAG is, or the Design Advisory Group, and where we're at and where we're going. So the schedule is, we had our DAG today. They last normally from 3:30 to about 5. Tonight's was a big one. We were looking at the design groups and the site layouts and kind of some of the stuff you just saw Tim present. So that lasted about 2 hours. So we got done about 5:30 tonight. We have another one on the 27th, which is another really important one. And then we kind of wrap that up. We kind of test fit it on February 10th. And then the March 3rd is kind of really presenting kind of the schematic design to the group to look at. Construction hasn't really changed yet, but as Rex has mentioned, we have our, they did some interviews today. Maybe you didn't mention that, but interviews were done today. And so we'll know who those are, and we'll kind of really vet that construction schedule with that GCCM later. You can go ahead and switch the screen. So this is a huge building already. It's going to be a much better big building when we're done with it. But again, part of our process, unlike the other two teams, is we get to design the entire 250,000 square foot building inside and out. And so this is our Revit model. Revit is the program that we use. It's like CAD, but better. And so this is the existing building. So you can see it actually looks like Capitol High School, which is pretty awesome. Go ahead and flip the screen. So some of that is what's happening inside. So some of that we also have to do is analyze the existing building. Where are the departments? Are they next to each other? You know, are they separated around the building? How does the existing building function? So that's kind of a process that we do. So that's what you're seeing here is a department plan where we look at where all the departments are at. Are they located next to each other? And the next map that you'll see, you can go ahead and flip the screen, is what we call a heat map. And this is where we're able to see, you know, we know where the departments are. Are they utilizing these rooms well, right? So this is you looking at the utilization or a heat map. So are they utilizing it 1 period a day, upwards of 8 periods that they have in the day? So that's really kind of what this is showing. Some of the white areas that you see really aren't classroom spaces, so we don't really kind of utilize that or analyze that the same way that we might the classroom spaces. So what you'll see in this is some of the blues means that we're not well utilized in some of these, and some of the high, you know, heavy reds are overutilized. And interestingly enough, the gym, because we don't have an auxiliary gym, is really utilized, which is why part of the bond is like we need this new auxiliary gym, right? Fair?
Yeah.
So another fun thing we get to do is Capitol High School has just an amazing shop program. They have some really cool stuff going on out there. They have what are called Haas machines, or these big CNC machining fabrication machines, and there's a bunch of those. So part of what we did over the break was we went into the school and we basically analyzed every piece of shop equipment that they had. What does it need power? What kind of power? Water, exhaust, dust, gas, air. And we figured out how big this thing is. And then we also figured out kind of what would be a good clearance to work around this thing so we don't have to move them. What happening right now in the shop is they're all on kind of casters, so they move them all. And that's maybe not a bad thing, but it really isn't an ideal situation for a shop teacher to have to move this machine so we can use that machine, right? So that's kind of what's happening now. So we're analyzing that. This has not been fully vetted by the district yet. So that's some of the stuff we'll be talking with the shop teachers and the district as to, is this enough equipment? Is it too much? But to give you an idea, there's 154 pieces of kind of fixed equipment that may or may not be fixed to the ground. So there's a lot of equipment in these shops, and those all need special power, special gas, special stuff. So that's pretty fun. I like equipment though, so it's fun for me. The other thing that we were really lucky to do over Christmas break was because the kids were gone, we were able to sit down for about 4 hours. Was it 4 hours, Doug? I think it was 4 hours with Josh and Brett. And we were able to go through kind of that heat map, and these are all the classrooms. So it's what we call the program, and you've seen this with Tim. So we were able to analyze all the classrooms they currently have, all the classrooms they think they need, all the administrative spaces, every space they have. So this kind of acts like an ed spec to a degree, but it really is the program of all the rooms that are necessary in this building. So I think Josh also has been kind of weighing this between the Helena Highs to make sure that there's equity between both schools. So that's a really good thing. You can go ahead and flip it. Okay, I'm gonna let Doug talk about the DAG because we got him here and he's gonna do a better job at it than I will.
So you'll see that now a roadmap for the design advisory group process, and that group is a cross section of community members, parents, teachers, students. That we've had great student participation actually through this process. They've actually presented a lot of the information through the DAG, which has been really helpful. And so you can see the DAG roadmap that we have here. And so we're in roadmap 3. We're in meeting 3 that was tonight, where we presented option. And Jacob talked about our next couple of meetings. And really by DAG number 5, we'll really have a concept that will really start to finalize us as we move forward. The design advisory group process really starts to finish at the end of what we would call schematic design. So once the big moves and the concepts are all set, then they've done sort of their job. And we understand, just like Tim is going through right now, we have the big moves that have been made. We understand where the design's going. And at that point, we really don't need the design advisory group. We really need district input and teacher input. And so you'll see as we move to the next phase after the DAG, it's really about user group meetings, which Tim is probably already in the process of doing. So we understand specific needs for specific spaces as we move forward. So go to the next slide, if you would, please. And so we'll just talk a little bit about what the DAG has been so far. And so one of the first things that we did in the first meeting was we actually did a SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so this is evaluating both the culture, the educational environment, and how things work in the building right now. These became guiding principles that we used tonight to evaluate the 4 concepts that we presented to the DAG. And so you can see a summary of all those things that the group came up with through the process that helped us lead through the design process. So this was one of the key things that was in Design Advisory Group Meeting 1. So if you go to the next slide. So the other thing that we conducted as we were working at the beginning, right before the design advisory groups, and as we've moved through this process, we actually had a community survey. We had over 400 participants in the community survey. And so a combination of both students and staff. And so you'll see through that, and actually Brett, the principal, went back to students and had them participate more. Most of the staff, we had quite a bit of participation from both community members and parents in this process. And you can see, I'm just going to summarize a few of these. You can see some of the things that they talked about. Where's their connection? You can see who was participating. You could also see what they valued and what they were excited about for the capital project. And then, as you can see on the right with question 5, there was actually 8 questions they answered, is what would you rate your satisfaction for these different spaces in the building? The more red that you see, the more dissatisfaction. the more blue you see more satisfaction. You can see that. The common themes came out from both the community members and from our DAG as far as the things that were identified in the bond and the things that we need to address as we move through this design process. Let's go to the next slide. You can also see what important features. Of course, flexible learning environments for students was high priority, addressing those academic needs, heart of the school, a cafeteria, the commons area like Tim talked about, which was really important in that design, is equally as important as we go through the capital process. Good feedback from the community on this. And then we also talked about what benefits students, what sort of specialized educational spaces. So you can see small group counseling, dedicated student study spaces. That student-centric space was really important to the feedback that we've gotten both from the community and from our design advisory group. So go to the next one. We also talked about CTE, which is key, to, of course, to the bond scope of work. And you can see as Jacob's team has been working on, we have that categorized, and that's going to be central to the solution that we come up with as we move forward. So the next one. So DAG number 2, you can see we also, in design advisory group number 2, we actually did a gallery walk. So we haven't done our tours yet, but we wanted to get everybody's juices flowing and look creatively at different kinds of educational environments that we're going to sort of implement as we move through the design process. Next slide, please. This is that gallery walk activity. You can see green dots were things that they liked. Yellow dots were things that they thought were okay, but not necessarily highest priority. And then red were things that they didn't like. Next slide, please. The other activity, we wanted to make sure that everybody role played a little bit. What's the life of a student like in the building? What's the life of a teacher like? And so as part of the DAG, we actually went through a day in the life exercise, and they role modeled both a student and a staff member to sort of understand where the pinch points are, where the opportunities are as you move through this design process. So the next slide, please. And so the meeting agenda, do you want to talk a little bit about what we did today?
Yeah, I sure can. So again, we kind of analyzed we basically reviewed everything first, just like refresh. This is what we talked about. This was what was important in the last couple of meetings because it's been 4 weeks, right? And then we really spent some time going through these concept ideas, and we had the pleasure of going through like a rough draft with Rex and the leadership on Thursday last week, just to make sure that they knew what we were about to present and we weren't going down a direction that was not comfortable with everybody, right? So now that said, we don't have those for you tonight because we've been feverishly working on getting those put together. But there were some fly-throughs, and there was a lot of really good information massing. We had some really great site plans, and Rex will be able to see more of those on Thursday as well too. But that's what we went through tonight. So then we got their feedback, what works with this site. And we intentionally did these things so that they were really very different from one another, right? Kind of like you saw with the 3 options that Tim had shown you guys, right? We gave them fun names, and we made them very different. So we'll be picking kind of and choosing from those, and we'll be kind of developing one that really is the best fit with all the, the things that work the best out of each of those. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, totally fair.
Okay. And I think that's all. Oh yeah, questions.
So Rex, we're meeting at Capitol for our work session just as they're finishing the next DAG.
Yeah, yep. And that's the reason why we moved that up to 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
because I tried to move it down to 4:30, but they really needed that extra half an hour to finish up their meeting. So we'll meet at 5, and we will take a tour during that time. So we're going to schedule that out 5 o'clock, 5 to 5:40, 5:45. We'll take a tour to really kind of sit as we did once before. Like, this is going to change. This is going to look different. This is going to happen here. We'll walk through the building and just hypothesize how it's going to look different in the coming days.
I appreciate that because it's one thing to, to talk about it in a sentence, and it's another to be in the building and actually kind of flesh it out in your mind. But if there's anyone from the DAG that is around when we show up, I think it would be great just to hear from community members how has this been a good experience for them?
Yeah, we would love for you to hear from one of the students. And maybe one of the parents. I mean, you could hear from any one of the representatives, but I think the student participation has been really great, and great opportunity for them to share with you their experience. So of course you pick whoever you want, but we would just, I think, encourage you to talk to one of the students.
If that fits in with your schedule, for sure.
And you're more than welcome to attend early. You know, that starts at 3:30.
3:30.
Yeah, so 3:30 to 5, you're more than welcome to be there watching that unfold and be part of the conversation if you'd like. So feel free. If not, if that doesn't fit your schedule, then at 5 o'clock, we'll start from there. Thank you, both
Pretty
of you.
exciting.
Thank
I would like to say too, I kind of stole the presentation from Mosaic just a little bit. So I want to thank them for starting, and yeah.
It's one big community project. You can borrow from each other. As Mosaic and Matt and the Gretchen and the teams coming up, I been really wrestling around the idea of another meeting, and so I've settled on the fact that we're going to have another work session meeting as trustees, and what I want to do. The architects do not know this yet, but we're really going to roll our sleeves up, push everything out of the way and get some tables. And as you know, A&E SMA is a little further down the line. I think that Slate's in that area right now. I'm not convinced that Mosaic is really ready for moving X's and O's and boxes around, but I do want you to be able to sit and watch and learn a little bit about where the architects are in their big block massing, and talking about why this sits here. The question that you had around the why are we building an open space here? Why is that courtyard there? It makes sense, but you can't really get that in a 5-minute presentation, right? So I really want to be able to. We'll notice it. We'll have the public, but you will be part of that conversation around why are we doing it this way, so you can hear it firsthand. I think as we go through this process and we present to the trustees, which is they have the ownership of what this is going to look like, it's really difficult for you to have a full understanding in a 10 to 15 minute process. So we're going to have to figure this out of how you're going to be part of it as we move forward, but not every week. It's going to have to be, probably monthly. Fair enough?
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, we spent some time together yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Tell
I'm
us about
Gretchen Crum with Mosaic Architecture. I'm here with my business partner, Matt Ani, and also Mike Vermeeren with Cushing Terrell. So Mike's been here all week, and we'll explain why in here just a bit. So you can move on to the next slide. Quick agenda. We're going to go through kind of where we set guiding principles. We're actually set by the district for the previous 3 elementary schools. We kind of vetted that with the district, that not a lot has changed, but I'll just kind of remind you what those are, what the project schedule looks like, what the current phase plan we're in right now looks like, what we've been doing for student, teacher, and community engagement, and then where we head from here. So again, these guiding principles were actually written for the previous bond. But just to remind you, this is kind of setting like district level groundwork, and what we've been trying to work with the Kessler community is try to understand how that takes form specifically for Kessler. But those principles include designing for the whole child, and I was sharing these last night at the community meeting as well. Understanding that our learning environment is not just about classroom space, but there's a whole lot of learning that's happening campus-wide, that educating that whole child involves moving your body, performing, doing artwork, and all those kinds of things, really integrated approach. Integrating technology, again, this was like a big step forward in the previous bond, because we were dealing with a lot of old schools, but this is like a given in any new building right now. So making sure that those technology needs are integrated throughout. And then creating schools that are a community amenity. We go immediately to thinking about gymnasium space, which is an obvious one. We are going to have a full-size gym here, but there's lots of other spaces that can be a community use. I know there's a lot of use in the hub and Da Vinci space at Central and things like that. We obviously have one great performance space in the district right now at Helena Middle School that's overutilized. But those are the kinds of amenities that we want to make sure are in the building as much as possible, because this is a community funded project, so the community ought to be able to use that. And that includes the site work too. Moving on, that spaces are adaptable. Again, that allows flexibility in the teaching environment, allows teachers to be nimble and move through the spaces and use them as they see fit, to address all those children's needs. And number 5 is kind of connected with that too, creating breakout spaces so that you're making personal connections with kids. There's a lot of differentiated learning that's happening, and providing the amount of space to do that in is really critical. And lastly, making sure that we're creating healthy environments. That can mean a lot of different things, from daylight and views to making sure that we're using biophilic principles to create calming and protective spaces for kids, and also making sure that the buildings are sustainably built. So those are kind of foundational things that we're moving forward, and again, figuring out how to give those expression specifically for the Kessler community. This is the general flow of where we're going. You've probably seen this before. We are in this first phase of developing ed specs and programming, which is why Mike is here this week, and we're headed towards a February deliverable on that. Moving forward, the next slide, I'm going to let Matt talk a little bit about some of the site considerations we're looking at.
Yeah, hi everybody. We know the site has a slope, which is actually really exciting. Constraints actually create great design in a lot of ways. On this project, we're going to do as much as we can this summer, but there isn't a ton that we have to really worry about. There is a storm drain, there is a modular we have to find a home for. We've been meeting with Civil, so we're ahead of that phase. We're doing all the really fun stuff that Mike and Gretch have been doing with the teachers and the community meetings, but we're also looking at some of the pragmatics. So we're trying to stay ahead of that, and we're so excited. The site is awesome. So just all I got to say is I can't wait to show you guys in a month or so what we come up with.
I'm going to kind of skip through this. If you want to move to the next phase, because I think you know kind of what the goals of this are. I've expressed before that there's kind of a qualitative and a quantitative element of this. We've been up until this week very much in the qualitative part of things, in understanding what the goals and values, what the practices and aspirations of that Kessler community are. And then Mike is here with me this week, really digging into the quantitative. We're doing programming meetings with every grade level and understanding kind of what all the needs and specific needs and space needs for those departments are. But just to give you a highlight of what the process has looked like, we've worked with teachers. We did some qualitative engagement with teachers, which started with kind of actually talking about the planning process. If we get this planning process right, what will we have done? That future perfect planning. So if you move to the next slide, I think there should be a list of things that kind of came out of that. Again, we're planning a building, but we also want to plan the process to get to the building, right? So things that we heard are, well, we will have created a safe space that encourages learning. For diverse groups, we will have thought of student needs of all abilities. We will have received input from all. Again, this is part of what we're doing. We will have listened to the kids, and I'll tell you about that. We will have listened to all of the needs of staff, including those adjacent needs for kitchen, custodial, stack, all those people that are using the building as well. We will have listened to teachers at Bryant, Jim Darcy, and Central, which we've done. We've done a couple of walkthroughs at Bryant, a walkthrough at Central, a walkthrough at Jim Darcy. Also some specific teacher interviews at Bryant, just to get some feedback on how that's working as educational space. And we will have been thoughtful stewards of the community's investment. We'll have taken into account future education. We will have listened to the community. We will have had a discussion about growth, and we will have thought about more kids, more programs, and more activities, what that looks like in a bigger school. So you can move forward. And these are just a snapshot of kind of the nuggets, I think, that came out of some of those discussions, again, on that qualitative side of things about what the culture of Kessler School is. We really we did many of the same engagement tools with the community last night. It was really reassuring to hear the same thing. And that was a group of about 30-ish, maybe a little over 30 people that were there. Some of them were staff, but there were a lot of parents, some neighbors, a board member. And so really confirming like what we're hearing from the staff too, which is there's a very tight-knit community there. There's a very supportive staff culture. And I keep saying the quote from the day working with teachers was that every adult believes that we're a team and the kids are ours. Like every kid is ours. There's not this sort of sectoring by classroom responsibility. It really is a very large family approach. And so understanding that that's a value for them and how you carry that forth in programming into a new fresh building that may be much larger. So again, those are some of the values and beliefs that came out of that. If you want to move forward to the next one. So then we've done student engagement with every class in the building, with the exception of Kinder Sprouts. But spent a full day last week and a half a day this week working jointly with Paul Blumenthal. And Paul is the one who did the mural at Bryant recently. And I know Paul, and he's an architect also. He just recently retired from the state. And so I said, I first sat down with him for coffee. I said, I just want to know more about your mural at Bryant, because I was watching it online. Like, it's so cool. I just want to know how you did it. And that same time I was rolling around in my head, like, I want to come up with a creative way of engaging students that, is something special. And so finally I put two and two together and like, Paul, do you want to help me with this? And he was super excited. So if you want to roll to the next slide, we spent 2 days working with kids, asking a variety of questions. It varied based on age group or kind of, what we were getting back from kids. But I was asking them a lot of questions. I was taking notes, and Paul was starting to develop a mural of some of those images, capturing some of those ideas specific to Kessler. And the idea here is that Paul's going to do some refinement of this mural so that it looks beautiful, and we're going to hang it on the gym wall at Kessler, and then eventually move it into the new building. So I think it's going to be a really special piece, especially for those younger kids. It was fun. You talk to the older kids and you say, I know that you're going to be out of this building before there's a new building, but we really you're here for your expertise because you've been here so long. We know that you know the most. So you try to draw them in that way. And the little kids, you go like, you're going to see a new building built and you're going to move in, and their eyes just like they've heard it, but I don't know, there's this recognition like, oh, and so for them to see an idea that they may have said that goes on this mural and then it hangs on the wall for a couple of years and then it moves to the new school and they see it again, I think that's going to be kind of a pretty special piece for kind of maintaining that culture. And then we've also been dropping off an engagement board every week for the kids to answer with sticky note answers. So that first week last week was your favorite space in Kessler School. We got great responses on that. We'll log all those responses. And then this week is kind of what do you want to not see change at Kessler? Like when you move in a new building, what's important to maintain? And I imagine we'll have some great responses about what's valuable to that community out of that. So moving on. We are headed on a road trip next week. We're going to be visiting 7 schools, 5 in Spokane, 1 in Coeur d'Alene, and 1 in Lolo. I don't know a lot about these until I get there, so I'm not going to tell you anything, but we've got snapshots, beautiful photos of some of the ones we're going to see. Creekside Elementary, you can roll through Skyline Elementary, Linwood Elementary, Spokane again, Mullen Road. Some of these photos, I intentionally put in like we're looking at some different stage arrangements because that's one of the big decisions to be made. Green Acres, you can see there's the stage off the gym. The other one was off the cafeteria. Northwest Expedition Academy in Coeur d'Alene, and then Lolo. It's actually K through 8 and Lolo. So that's planned for next week. And then we'll compile photos and observations from that to be able to share kind of a virtual road trip with those in the building or at the district who aren't going along on that trip. Programming events. So we've been doing that this week. Mike and I, again, like I said, meeting with every department. If you can roll to the next one, I'm going to let someone else talk. Hopefully, where's the other stuff? Well, you come tell about the meeting last night, Mike.
Oh. Yeah. I think this week is all about us asking the questions and listening to input. It's all about input and engagement. Last night was a fantastic meeting. We had 30 people there. And most importantly, every single one of them had something to say. They all contributed. They all got engaged in the activities. We ran 4 different activities for them. We did the same precedent image, gallery walk with the green and yellow dots. It's always incredibly helpful for us just to understand exactly, what are the individual, like the particular things that they like about all the spaces. What do they not like? Let's stay away from that stuff. So it always sparks good conversation too. We asked questions about history and moving forward. Questions like, what are the things from the past that we want to take with us into the new building? What are the things that we have today that maybe we don't want to take with us? Or, things in the future that we've never had before. What do we want to realize? So we asked a little bit about that. We did the classic empathy diagramming, which is really just asking, what do you want your students to hear and see and think and do when they go to this new school? Maybe that's across the whole campus, or maybe that's just in particular spaces like the cafeteria or within their classroom, or collaboration spaces, right? So, but trying to put your focus where they are, right? If you were a student, what would you want them to experience? So again, we always get a lot of good conversation from that. And then another one that's a little bit more of a deeper dive, when it comes to campuses, we always talk about culture. And there's always a positive thing when we talk about culture, but somebody might attribute certain aspects to their culture, and another person says, well, this is what I think of a culture. So we dive into what they actually mean. I'd kind of pieced 2 definitions of culture together with the thought that culture is really it's the set of shared values, goals, attitudes, practices, beliefs, and behaviors that are dependent on one generation learning and passing on to the next, right? And so what are those? And it's amazing when you give people time to think about it and collectively start putting those answers down, right? And pin them up. This is actually a goal. This is a practice I want to see in my campus. And then you actually write it out and define it, and collectively you say, yeah, that's Kessler Elementary. So that's what we were doing so far this week. I also had a chance to meet with the 5th graders and 1st graders, and it was fun because some of the things that they said came out in the meeting last night, specifically designing for everybody, that they want this campus to belong to everybody. Kids of all different abilities, of all different talents, right? They want everyone to come here and feel like this is their home. And the term family came across quite a bit in the culture conversations too. So great staff over there. They've been so just very accommodating and sharing their thoughts. It's been great so far. So you have anything to wrap it up? All right. Yeah.
I'm just going to share one anecdote. So, in working with the kids, I said, it took me about half the day to figure out what the age appropriate questions are for a kindergartner versus a 5th grader. But, when you toss out a question and it doesn't go anywhere, that, you got to rethink. But I was really impressed. I was impressed across the board with behavior. The kids were just fantastic, and it was very easy to engage with them. But the 4th and the 5th graders, I tossed them out some very sort of high level conceptual questions, and I didn't know if that was going to fly or not. And they grabbed hold. And one of the ones that I just was so pleased about is asking them ideas for what makes them feel like they belong at Kessler. Are there aspects of things that are happening here, or even aspects in the building, or that make you feel like you belong? And the answers really had to do with, there were a lot of answers about, I have friends here, I feel safe here, that when I hear kind words, obviously. But there was also a lot of discussion about when I get to share something about myself. So displays of artwork, displays of writing, things that I've done, chances to perform, singing or performing in front of my classmates. That makes me feel like I'm part of the community. So I was really impressed. They dug into some very conceptual questions and really did great with them. So happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from trustees?
I just want to thank every firm here tonight. Tim, I did not read all your 300 pages, but I did look at quite a few of them. And honestly, being a board member, we have very kind of formal silos of how we get information, but having the opportunity to go through and see what our staff is saying about their needs and how they use their classrooms, or being last night at Kessler and listening to parents just talk about, what are their values and what are they looking for? How do they want their kids to feel when they come in the building? That's all really helpful information we don't often get a chance to hear. So I just appreciate, I know this takes a lot of time and energy and a lot of gray, but it really does drive the vision. And I appreciate that everyone takes the time to really engage our community.
Gretchen, I'd just like to, as a former superintendent of Kessler when it was District 2, about 40 years ago, 41, as my daughter was born right before we started. I love the sense that you've already figured out that it is a community. And I remember when we annexed Kessler and brought Kessler into the school district, and I that was one of my projects as the assistant sup, and I said to them, our intent is to bring the community, your community, and the work that you do into the district, and you will remain as a community. And I love hearing that you sense that it still is the community. And the district's done a wonderful job with those teachers and building that expectation. And 40 years later, it's exciting to hear that it's still that strong community that we all know it is.
Well, they're doing some really effective programming there. The other question we asked kids is what kind of events are happening at Kessler that you really enjoy, and it was laundry list of events. And then understanding that now more formally that they're doing monthly family engagement events. Some of them on their campus, some of them are out in their community, but that's the kind of stuff that builds community. And I think that they're doing a tremendous, very effective job of that.
I feel like we're listening to what the community was expressing as we were going through all the bond work. And it really was a common theme to feel heard and have an opportunity to participate. And it sounds like through all the different projects, we've really opened up and allowed people to do that. So that is very much appreciated.
Yeah, thinking about tremendous work, right? So you have SMA with partner with NEC, Slate, RTA that's with us tonight, Mosaic, Cushing Terrell. Yeah, I am so proud of the work that they've done. You think that we're going to design buildings, are going to get behind a desk and draw things out. There's a lot more of the interaction, the people business of really what's important that they're drawing out. We are in really great hands. Look forward to more conversations around this. As I move forward, Board Chair, if I may, thank you, Gretchen and team. We appreciate your energy tonight. I'm gonna work on our scheduling here because as it looks, we'll start running our GCCMs up with the associated projects, and so I have on number 4 here our GCCM in timelines. But I do want to give Bob Heberly and Dick Anderson an opportunity just to say hi. This is their first opportunity to be here. We'll partner them up when A&E and SMA do their updates. We'll also have the construction managers here. That's an expectation. We've had a kickoff event once we knew that Dick Anderson was going to be was approved. Then we brought them in with SMA with the entire project of Helena High Campus, Sodexo and the rest of us in our facilities. And we really in this room, we had a kickoff meeting and some expectations with our owners rep. This is the reason why we went through the pre-bond work. This is what we told our community. This is what we put our name on as a school district, and this is what I expect from us. And then being able to work together. And so we had that meeting last week. We're going to do it again because we just screened out, and we'll have a recommendation that'll be in an agenda for tomorrow with Slate partnership in the Capitol High. And so we'll have that next kickoff meeting Tuesday with the GCCM and Slate architecture. But at this point, Mr. Heberly, we didn't give you the mic, and I know you you were kind of hoping that we forgot about you back there, but we will give you the opportunity for an introduction at least.
Not sure I can add much, but thank you. I'll be really quick. Again, Bob Heberly with Dick Anderson Construction. A few weeks ago, we went from our interview to receiving about 20 calendar invites within the span of about 24 hours. So our feet are fully underneath of us now. We're in full support mode for A&E and SMA at this point, really just kind of helping them on really whatever they need. You'll see this transition here over the course of the next year where Tim has a whole lot of information. We're in support mode, and it'll transition to where we'll have a whole lot of information, and Tim will be in the support mode. But other than a lot of the meetings that have been going on, just to kind of some three main things we've been working on, evaluating mechanical systems, electrical systems, with looking at different options with Todd and his team. We're going to actually go tour a building next week that has a certain type of system, just to look at those different pros and cons there. Reconciling our construction schedule with their design schedule, really kind of trying to tie those together so that we can, we talked a lot about having some early bid packages put out there. We need to look at that and work with Tim and his team on making sure their time frame fits with being able to do that. And then we're working on starting to build our overall global budget so it matches what Shane and Holting has, but so that we're in full preparation when their SD deliverable comes out here in a couple weeks on February 6th, that we'll hit the ground running to be working on budget. So
thank you.
Fast and Furious.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Good work.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. And then reminder that we'll have a special board meeting for GCCM Capital on Friday. And then we will start, I believe the advertisements went out for the Kessler GCCM, and then we'll have that, I believe, wrapped up by February 6th. That should be a Friday. And then obviously screenings and then interviews process as well. So that's the timeline. That'll get us through new business item A.
Thank you very much. Again, a great thank you to everyone who was here to help present, provide us information. It is appreciated. Okay, so then with that, we're moving on to consent action items. So I would entertain a motion for approval.
I move that we agree to the consent action items as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Hawthorne. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. Do we have, wait. Public comment? Do we have any public comment? Thank you. Do we have any board comments? Okay. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. I believe it's 8. Did we have both? Okay. Trustee McKee, are you still on?
I am, and I voted aye.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I voted aye.
The teams are having a great time out there in the hallway. They're designing.
All getting together, a little party. Okay. All right. So then moving on to C, items for action. Do we have, so we're going to consideration of the approval for pay plan rules. Is that Miss?
I'll kick it off. Question, how's everybody doing?
Oh, do we want to take a 5-minute break? I think if we could probably move on, and then
Roger.
we'll need a break.
All right, so let's do this. Items for action. Letter C, number 1. This is the pay plan ruling. Say that slowly. I'll bring Ms. Mizell up, HR, and Mr. Kearns from CMS. Maybe. Oh yeah, she's here. I want to make sure that we reiterate this, is that we've been through this, and I've said it a lot, but I don't know if I can say it enough, is that we really value the expertise of Jim and CMS in helping us walk through a real, there's a lot of energy around compensation and how that's done and how it's done well or how it's not done well. And I've said it before, I will not go through what we went through before, because we tried to do what was best and we didn't do well with it. And so bringing people in that this is their expertise so that they can make recommendations for us to move forward has been really important. This is not an overnight thought that we've been engaged now, what, Jim, for 1.5 to 2 years, and it has paid dividends. I think it builds transparency, it builds trust that we are not muddling through an area that we don't need to muddle through. This is a place that we need to get it right so that we can transparently project what it is that we're doing throughout the district. And so I am thankful that we're here. No one really ever wants to go down this. No one really wants to change boundaries. Nobody really wants to do the things we've done in the past. But this is important work for our district and being consistent. So, Carrie, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off, can update us to the point where we're here and why we're having this conversation, and then have Jim tell us where we're at.
Sure. So I really appreciate that Jim's been here and sitting through all of the great conversations. If you remember from our meeting last December, we kind of talked about where we were and the things to come. And so we're back today to actually ask for approval on some of the things that we have done in the last month. And so one of those important things that we've been working on for over a year is building on our compensation philosophy. So you all approved the compensation philosophy that was done in partnership with a steering committee, although this compensation philosophy is really focused more to our independence. It does have a tie to bargaining where it sets kind of the foundation, not that it not that it supplants what bargaining is, but it kind of gives us a framework of sorts to go from. And so we brought that same steering committee back together, representative of independents and represented positions, to put together pay plan rules, because right now we don't have anything formalized that talks about when somebody's promoted, when somebody's demoted, what a promotion is. And so we actually put some definitions in there so that people understood what a promotion was, what happens to somebody's pay if they stay in the same grade, but it's a new position. And so we basically have taken those steps to formalize what we will do for that consistency, that transparency. Nobody is wondering what's Carrie's mood today and what is she going to do? Not that I would do that, right? But we want it documented. We want consistency, and we want it to be something that's sustainable into the future. So what you have in front of you is building on the compensation philosophy that was approved, having those pay plan rules. Yeah, it's 3 Ps, right? Pay plan rules, along with definitions. So again, we have criteria of what happens. And this also ties into the next action item that you'll see, which is the implementation or the transition of a salary matrix for independents. So Jim, you want to speak a little bit more?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and good evening. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add beyond what Ms. Mizell said. I think the pay plan rules are going to be really important, like she said, to implementing our compensation philosophy, ensuring that we're fiscally responsible, that we're consistent, equitable in administering our pay plan. So things like, where do we place new hires? What do we do if somebody's promoted, demoted? How do we keep the system current and ensure we remain comparable with other districts? And so I think the pay plan rules and the steering committee are 2 important factors to ensure that all this work we've all done kind of lives beyond current leadership or the current consultant or whatever. We want to have a long-term sustainable plan. So I think having these policies in place, having the steering committee guide us is going to be very important. So the pay plan rules will be a great guide for our managers and for human resources. And just want to briefly touch on the wage matrix we're proposing as well, to get the independent wage matrix. We did a lot of research into the current matrix. There was a few areas we wanted to correct as far as some of the distinctions between grades or the percentage increase between grades and some of the steps. One of the things, as you'll recall, in our compensation philosophy is to try to move towards a consistent pay plan and treating all our groups consistently, not the same, but treating people consistently and equitably. So that was a big part of getting the independent salary matrix stood up. The cost of getting that implemented is going to be, fairly nominal. I think we're at about $35,000. So between the pay plan rules and the matrix, we're going to have an infrastructure within which to manage pay, budget for pay, communicate pay. And again, another one of our big objectives in the compensation philosophy was to make sure people understand and we're transparent with our pay plan. And I think having both of these, the matrix and the pay plan rules in place, will go a long ways towards doing that. That'll then help us better make decisions, perhaps as people transition between collective bargaining units and the teachers union, if they transition into independent or administration ultimately, and then position us to put into place some of the same infrastructure for our administrative staff as well. So that's kind of the basic, what we hope to achieve out of it. Happy to answer any questions.
Just to clarify, with the compensation philosophy and the pay plan rules, does that cover all of our employee groups as far as that?
The co-
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the compensation philosophy is intended to cover everybody.
Okay.
But the pay plan rules really right now are just focusing on independents. We will eventually probably add administrative into the pay plan rules as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my next question. Who's left?
Yeah.
What's the more, is it just administration that
Yep.
we're left with as far as completing that work?
Yep.
Yeah, because most of your represented positions, your collective bargaining agreement identifies what the rules and regulations are. And so, but we did put language in here that if somebody is moving into a position, so if somebody is coming, as Jim alluded to, if somebody's coming from a secretary to an independent, it's the pay plan rules that are going to be applied. If somebody is moving from an independent position to a represented, maybe they're going to a teacher position, then the collective bargaining of that, the negotiated teacher union would be what's applicable for setting their salary. Yeah.
I just also wanted to say, I'm just very grateful for having this work done. Those of you that have been here for a longer time with me, when you're in a time of scarcity and that causes stress, and then you don't have these systems in place that guide you, it wasn't a lot of fun, and it's much better now. And so I'm very thankful. Thank you.
And yes, trustee Cletus.
No, I was pointing to you.
Oh, trustee Armstrong.
I just want to say, I'm sitting on the steering committee. When we look at the chart that we have now, the one that we had previously was bigger with a lot more spots and a lot more variance. And I could understand why some of the staff weren't very satisfied, because now you've got very consistent increases, and it was confusing. And then when Jim put the new one up, it was kind of like, I can look at that. I can understand it. There's predictability, there's stability, which I think leads into what Superintendent Wells was talking about. That increases the trust. So I had no clue. I don't think we did, because it's kind of boring work to actually dig into all these for all the employees and what was done here and how that changed to actually figure out what we're actually doing. But I appreciate it's a lot of dedication. It just goes a long way into making this a desired place to work. So thank you.
I think the credit needs to also go to Carrie Mizell. I think there's a lot of work there that, I okay the work. She does the work, right? And we've been in this together for quite a while, but if it wasn't for her tenacity of moving on and moving forward, this probably wouldn't have got done. So a lot of that kudos goes to her and Jim.
Any other comment? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Vice Chair Walt.
Walsh.
Oops. I move that we adopt the pay plan rules as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion from trustee Cletus. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, trustee Hathorn. Do we have any public comment? Any further board comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, passes 8-0. All right, moving then into the transition to a new salary matrix for independents.
Yeah, so we've already alluded to this, but again, trying to have that consistency, that transparency, predictability, and budgeting. And again, just to clarify, independents, those are those individuals not represented by a collective bargaining agreement, which is our SAC, school-age child care site managers, transportation, our administrative assistants, payroll, IT, HR. So that's our tutors and our career center assistants. So I think I've got most of them. IT. Yep. Yeah. So again, this change would not result in any decrease in pay for anyone. The majority of folks are going to see a pay increase. What's going to be a little bit goofy for some is that their step will go down, but their pay is going to go up. And so what it's going to do is going to provide more of a career pathway and a higher earning potential on that new salary matrix. I have a communication plan set to go pending your approval. I did give managers a heads up today that this was in the board packet, and then we will be doing individual letters to each person so that they know what their new salary step will be. Targeting to have that all wrapped up no later than the February paycheck. And again, I know Jim will talk about this as well. But we've mentioned, right, that now your step isn't going to align with your years of service. And so that might be a little bit of a change for folks. But I think, again, it just recognizes this transition, and it will just give more earning potential for most folks going forward. So, Jim, again, I know you touched on it, but anything else to add? I forgot about.
Oh, yes. So yeah, I don't have much to add other than a couple of housekeeping things. I mean, we used to have a grade 1. We don't really have any positions in that role. We're probably hiring most of our people, I think, at grade 3s. Oh, really? Okay. So we probably don't use those lower grades. The bottom end of grade 1 was getting falling below minimum wage. So we just eliminated grade 1 basically, but we kept the numbers the same so we don't have to change people's grades or downgrade people. So that's why it starts at grade 2. We want to make sure that even though we don't typically hire people, we want to make sure our lowest step of our lowest grade at least meets minimum wage. And actually most of our positions are hired at a much higher wage and much closer to a living wage. You'll see kind of the infrastructure on the handout there. We kind of show you the increase from grade to grade. That's much smoother than it was under the old system. And then of course the increase as you go up each step is much smoother. And like I mentioned before, one of our goals with the step increases, you'll notice the percentages do decline a little bit, is we wanted to try to keep the dollar amount of the step increases fairly consistent. So they're not, compounding exponentially with the steps to make sure that the increases are fairly equitable as people go across. And like Carrie said, it provides a very long career growth, long predictability. Some people will be falling back steps. What we're going to do to get everybody on the matrix is we're taking their current pay. So if I was making, $24.50 an hour, the next closest step is $24.60 an hour. So we'd roll my pay up to that next step to get me on step. So getting everybody into this matrix is what I was talking about earlier, has a fairly nominal cost of about $35,000. And then if my steps do fall back, if I have 10 years of service, but I end up landing at step 6, that means I've got 14 more years of wage growth to come. So that'll be, like Carrie said, something we're going to carefully communicate to employees because we don't want people to feel, oh, my step went down. I'm making less money. It's no, actually now you have more steps ahead of you and more room to grow. So this will help us with our retention. This will help with some predictability, and also keep in mind our fiscal responsibility. And if times get tight and that type of thing, we have easy mechanisms, levers to look at if we need to make any types of adjustments. Very consistent with what we're doing with the teachers and the collective bargaining. And I forgot to mention earlier that the union folks were part of the steering committee and they were at the table through the whole thing. And they've been a great help ensuring that what we're doing is heading us all in the same direction.
I'm curious then, like, do we know kind of on average, do we have folks really falling kind of in the median of this matrix, or do we have leaning towards the lower end, high ends?
Carrie, probably.
So I think for the most part, we're really close to the median. What we did find through the salary survey analysis that CMS did is that we do have some positions that are benchmarked too low to the market. So what you'll be seeing in the next month or 2 months, I want to do a final validation calibration, is coming back to do some market adjustments for probably about 5 positions, more incumbents in those positions, but we've got about 5 positions that are like 70% of the market or 80% of the market. So we do want to do some adjustments there. Some of those folks are singletons. They've been with us long enough that their salary is fine where it is. But if we went to go recruit tomorrow, we know we would need to do some adjustments. So we're continuing to pull those levers and make changes as we continue to transition just to create that equitability, but also again, moving forward, having that transparency, having the pay plan rules so people know what we're doing. It's trying to ensure that nobody feels like we're doing something behind closed doors with a roulette, right? Like we have the tools and we have processes in place, and it's all, I say the word defensible. I think we came up with a different word. But again, we want to make sure that people understand that we can explain it and that we're keeping up with market, that we're not falling too far below. So there's still a couple adjustments to make, but for the most part, we have a very seasoned workforce. And this first adjustment that we're going to do to transition folks to the new salary matrix with your approval will help make that first step going forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Have any trustee comments, questions? Okay. Do I have a motion for approval?
Vice Chair Walsh, I would move that we approve the transition to a new salary matrix for independent employees.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you very much. We have a second. Do we have any public comment? Any further board comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Pass 8-0. Thank you much. And then last item for action, we have approval of the district-wide boundary adjustments.
Excuse me, as Mr. McKay works his way back up here, again, remind all of us that the boundary adjustments, along with all other decisions we've the decisions that we've had over the last couple of years, is not a singleton decision. It's not a singleton reason for just changing boundaries because it'd be a good idea. We really, through the construction process, we knew that we had about 950 on this side of town, 1,300 on the other side of town. C.R. Anderson's bigger than Helena Middle School, and in the consequent east and west sides of the elementary. As we were starting to consider the bond and what we're going to build in the Helena High, we wanted to make sure that we had the appropriate size building being constructed for equitable size of both sides of town. On that same side, Mr. McKay would argue that we also are losing out on programs and opportunities on the east side of town because we have less staff and less opportunity than we do on the other. So on an academic side, it made sense for us to do it as well. So the timing all rolled out that construction boundaries all needed to take place at the same time. You couldn't do them by themselves. And so we had started talking about this again 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. We've had forums, we've had this before you, we've had communications with the community. I think Mr. McKay has had several today, as I think it starts to become real today, that we have some parents ask some questions, and he's done a remarkable job of answering questions and meeting families where they're at. It is a slow roll, as you will find out, and it's one that's sympathetic to the families of where you came from and where you're headed versus what the transportation system is going to look like next year. So I probably took a lot of your thunder there, Mr. McKay, but if you wouldn't mind, roll us through where you're at and then the recommendation for approval.
Yes, Superintendent Welts, thanks for the introduction and the launch. We're going to go in an order on this presentation differently than is in the packet. It was put in the packet intentionally, just like it was presented last time, so that folks see that the order was the same. But I think touching on the communication plan and the why a little bit deeper on the front end will help just explain this. So then this is a prep document for some of the communication that has occurred with this project dating back to November of 2022. So then this is just a listing of all the times we've formally talked about boundaries in the communication, so that you're aware of like what we've talked about. And it kind of is going to end with, well, just at the bottom, little bit where we presented the plan in October to the Board of Trustees. We did so in May. We did it in a work session at HNS, and then there's been several communications through Superintendent Welts' community newsletter, and then additionally there's been an online web query kind of question answer dialogue that has been linked to those communications that we've been using for folks to be able to ask questions of, and then for our team to respond to. Talking about communication in general, I'm sure literally only a few of the questions come to our team. And I think that's good. What that means is that our administrators, our other folks that are in the know, when they get questions of parents, our admin team and people in the field are answering those questions, and they don't need the answers at our level. So then when I talk about that, I think that's important that our communication is more broad than right here and right now. And there's been a lot of questions answered in the community regards to individual situations, what this means for me, those kinds of things. So then, Mr. Meyer, can I get back to the other document then and go to, this is the recommendation, but it's also the same as what was presented on the 14th, so that it kind of clear that these are the same things. This is I'll talk about, like, this is a county map. It's on the website for Lewis and Clark County. It describes the county or the school districts in the county. But caution, looking at a map, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? It's also probably 1,000 interpretations. So then what I'm trying to say is folks might not know that Trinity School District, when you look at this map, is only a K-8 school district, which is part of our 9-12 school district. That is not called out on this county map. So same with Wolf Creek. It is a K-8 school district, but it is part of our high school district. So our high school district is different than our elementary district. We're one of the few districts that has a K-8 and a 9-12. Augusta is a K-12 school district, but Ashad Creek is a K-8 only. And so its high school students go into Augusta. So even though there's only 7 or so colors called out, there's many different arrangements of how things work. So like, I think folks need to understand that a map needs interpretation also. This East Helena is a K-12 school district. Most recently in our state, most school districts are K-12. Mr. Myers over here talked about Kessler School District. It's kind of like, did you know how many school districts were in Lewis and Clark County at one point in time? Anybody? Trivia question. 45. So there were 45 different school districts at one point in time in our area. What we're talking about is only our internal school boundaries. But there was a Remini School District. There was a Baxendale School District. They got incorporated into Kessler School District, which Kessler got incorporated into our school district one time. So I think it's really important that when folks look at things that you really, the words that explain what's going on are of the most important. So that turned us to page 2. And Mr. Welch, you know, I cannot go quick. I'm so sorry. I can enjoy my time. Sorry. The deeper why, we say that this is for educational opportunities. And, you know, it's educational opportunities. It's service to the community. It's being able to say yes to family plans as much as we can. It's be able to keep kids in schools that, well, I just say it's a heartbreaker when you have to tell a family that their school's full. The one that they're late to enrolling, they're an at-risk family. They don't get to go to a school that's full, and you got to overflow them to another district. This plan intentionally is designed to, just like our buildings, every one of those plans is to try to improve educational outcomes for kids in programming and in success in school. So like this foundational boundary plan is rooted in improving student learner outcomes. And then I can explain why when we get to a numbers thing on why this is so important to us to be able to do it. And it's about improving student learner outcomes, sizes of schools, ability to plan programming for them, and also to create capacity in some of those schools to be able to say yes to more individualized family plans. Like I need to be able to take my child to a school that has SAC before and after. I need to be able to drive my student to this school because it's near where the place where I work. If we have full schools everywhere, then we're not able to say yes to that. And then that causes, like a lot of, I get to say, families troubles to try to get their children to school. And that life for kids is really important. So we're trying to create capacity in each one of our schools. So that's kind of a deeper why. This is about educational opportunities, but it's about improving outcomes. The words are, there's a diagonal line in our district that really kind of separates. It runs from the south to the north, north to the south, diagonally, that separates the east and the west side. And people think of that as the Bruin Bengal side, that kind of thing. Some of you may not know me well, but I grew up a Bruin. And I married a Bengal, and my kids go to Helena High. But talking about my foundational upbringing and the importance of Capitol High and the importance of Helena High to me in our district, it's really important that people on each side of town have the same opportunity for programming, access to schools, those kinds of things. So this is super important. This is a gradual transition. So this plan, the backbone of this plan, is this primarily and does start for kids that haven't attended school yet. They haven't been in school. So when you look at numbers for change, this is gradual over time. You know, Hawthorne was a big, impactful thing to our community and change. Those kids that are at Hawthorne, all of them are grandfathered in to choose which middle school and high school they get to go to. So then kids that have were at Hawthorne get to decide whether they're going to CR or HMS, just like they'll get to decide with that decision, they'll get to decide Helena High or Capitol. So that is a grandfather. The sibling rule means if my brother or sister has gone to CR, do I get to go there? The answer is yes. You get to go there. So if you have a family pattern already in establishment, you'll get to go there. Just like, because we don't try to disrupt the continuity of the family. A lot of the questions from the website dealt with that. Does my kid have to change schools next year? They hear about boundaries. They'll see a map. They'll see their address. But if they don't look at the words explaining that map, they won't know the fact that you can stay in the school you're currently in. There's no intention of that. This is a transportation bus plan. There's courtesy routes planned for neighborhoods that are changed. So then we're not changing kids' schools. The ones that are going to change are the kids that haven't established a school yet with their family pattern. So then that is by design. One, so I talked about the courtesy routes. Then let's suppose, like with the question we get a lot, and literally when we're working through in-district boundary exceptions, Mrs. Alberts, myself, whoever's involved in them, parent comes in, goes, I really need my child to go to school X because like it's on my way to work, and this is the timing I need. We try to say yes to those. So then that means if they're not living in that boundary, we take that as an in-district boundary request, and we process that as soon as we can. We try to get kids in the neighborhood in, but we try to say yes to every in-district transfer request. We look at school enrollments. We look at it in high school, middle school, see that they can get their core classes and their electives, and then we decide yes or no on that, or what's a wait until we know. If this option opens, do you want it? That kind of thing. So we're really intentional about the in-district boundary exception process. This has been something that's been a standard for our district for a long time. People may not have known that. Some folks online on those comments were like, I would say every conversation I've had is cordial. People understand. You may not get to a complete agreement at the end or on the why, but like some of them they start out, maybe I'll use the word hot, maybe not knowing the full picture, is why are you forcing kids to change? Tell me more. What do you think's happening? Might be a community member that doesn't have kids in school. we're not changing anybody that is currently in a school. This is for down the road. This is for a long term. Oh, what if they want to go to another school district? Why won't you let them? We have an in-district boundary exception process. We've used it for years. So we say yes to most all of these when we can, and find a way to say yes as much as we can. So then they're like, oh, that sounds pretty good. So then I'm not trying to minimize it, but they enjoy the conversation. They enjoy the understanding the why. And then we get to more of a, an understanding. We sometimes need to meet with people to have an interaction or have a phone conversation that's interactive so we can try to understand where they're at. So someone's importance might be walkability. Some persons are like, I'm not, my students aren't walking, but my family route is I work at this time and I need to be able to drop off so-and-so near my office, or they have a medical situation where their child needs to be in a school near them for their work because they need to be able to check in, or diabetic management, those kinds of things. So there's so many individual situations on why one is important. And I want to say they're equally valued, each one of those. And so that in-district boundary request is something we take pride in doing, and we work really hard on it. So I'm going deep in the why on how it is. And this says our enrollment's kind of basically flat. I'm not going to go over that chart again. We've talked about it a lot. So then I'll maybe jump to, I'll go and specifically page 6, Gary. That's just a map. I mean, this is an example of a location in our town. This is just to refresh our memory. This is Treasure State Acres area and the Tree Street address. All of these polygons in all of these colors are the Fort Georgians' current boundary. So the action before you tonight is to make these two actions, the Treasure State Acres one and the Tree Streets one. So this is why I think in understanding a little bit, I'll go with this one first. So Treasure State, got a question out of this neighborhood. The question was, literally, do my kids, they hear boundary change. This particular family thought that we would be changing them away from C.R. Anderson and Capitol High, which is not true. This neighborhood here, so you slide up a little bit, Gary, I'd like the map shown more than the words. This area right here is Treasure State Acres. What's going to happen here for kids that haven't been in school yet, their fall of next year, if they enroll in kindergarten, they'll be going to Rossiter. Okay. They still will go to C.R. Anderson and still go to Capitol High. So then what this does is it changes and creates capacity at Fort Georgians, a school. These two colors are like Bill Roberts Golf Course, that kind of thing right down here. Creates capacity for Georgians enrollment to expand a little bit with kids that are closer to the school. There's some high density housing, some apartments in that area that are new that we expect it'll get more students in that area to attend. So we'd be able to say yes to more kids because Fort Georgians is a school that's currently at capacity. It might be a seat here and there, but it's our most filling school. So then having some room created for these students to travel to Rossiter would be helpful. The question that we got from the family is they understood this, and then they're like, okay, so it's not really changing my middle school and high school. Then how do I get my kids to school? And I'm like, well, there's a courtesy route. So what would happen is this line here that I'm using the laser pointer on is Montana Avenue. It's kind of a straight shot. It's the only subdivision and with Fort Georgians to the east of Montana Avenue right now. The safe way to do a courtesy route is to run a bus down this road that's one behind or off to the east of Montana Avenue and do a regional pickup. And they're like, oh, that sounds great. You mean my children would be able to get on the same bus and go to C.R. Anderson and Capitol High? Yes, they would be able to. So then like a worst fear question turned into, this will be a great plan for us in that route. Okay. Drew and Transportation Company works out a transportation plan for these children to get to Rossiter. Okay, so that's that one. This one is the Tree Street neighborhood. Again, if you just look at the map and folks see, well, you changed the boundary here. This area has always been interesting for us. This has been an OR neighborhood for a long time. And that's probably what is an OR neighborhood. Kids in this area have been able to choose whether or not they get to go to Helena Middle School or C.R. Anderson for as long as I know. So it's always been an OR in recent time. So then this proposal or ask is to change it to HMS and to Helena High. Okay. And so then that's the ask of the proposal. Again, it would start with when we see the words that kind of explain a deeper why and what it really is, kind of tells you what would happen with it. Okay. Next one. This is formerly the Hawthorne school boundary. Okay. When we closed Hawthorne, kids on this grant dividing line, first off, you remember that process is we shared with them what their school would be if the school were to close. So meaning this lime green color, maybe pea green color goes to Central. This other color, the bluish one, would be added and go to Kessler. Then we did an example of if you were to choose and you got something else, what would it be? Those numbers turned out to be really similar on the amount we calculated that should go to Central and the amount that should go to Kessler. They all didn't go the way that the map suggested necessarily, but their choices of where they wanted to go, the choices into Central and the choices into Kessler were about what we needed to be able to do to utilize Central as a school and Kessler as a school to serve all the Hawthorne kids. So you remember there was some give and some takes that ended up to be about the same. So that tells me that even though this line is close to C.R. Anderson, some folks would prefer that their children be able to walk to C.R. Anderson and go there. Kids that are currently have gone to Hawthorne will get to choose to go to C.R. Anderson, and that would be maintained. The other ones, if their children haven't started school yet and they have no sibling or historical connection, they would need to do an in-district boundary request. And so we talked a lot about if we have a space in a school, we'll do that. But to have so that's what this is. So a lot of the kids that are elementary are literally already going to Central, already going to Kessler. They will choose the ones that were in Hawthorne, and then new to the district next year would be Central, HMS, Helena High, unless they want to do a boundary exception, just like the number other in-district boundary requests we get for other reasons that are legitimate as well. So we'll process those. Yes. So the parent provides the transportation. And it's really similar to days of old, is if there's a courtesy route already in existence, our transportation that's just fine. It's just so like courtesy route that's already exists, we would allow another child to hop that route, that kind of a thing, and utilize that. Good question. Yeah. I have another good example of that one. They're going to be regional. They're not going to be door to door. Like, so then what that means is there'll be like like I can show that one and the Mountain Heritage one out in the valley where, wait, actually that one's next. Okay, but I think it's worthy of explaining for sure, Keith. It's just easier on this next map. So we'll go to the next one. This one is a 3-colored map of the current Jim Darcy. We literally studied the amount of kids in each one of these areas. The only one that we're asking to change out of this map, not the only one, the one we're asking to change out of this map is for this line, which is north of Lake Helena. This is Ferry Drive. It's like an S turn right by some silos out there that goes north. So then this portion would go to Warren. Okay, that would be for kids that haven't enrolled in school yet, or they haven't started school for next year. This black is just the east side of the interstate. What I was talking about here, Keith, is that like right now, this neighborhood is served by what I would call a regional stop anyways, because we don't run, these roads can get really dicey in the winter. We also don't run buses on roads if they're not like county maintained regularly. So this is a pretty rural North Hills area. So like you won't see buses going up in these foothills and things. So then there's a bus route already that has to turn around at a mailbox storage or a mailbox subdivision turnaround. So Mountain Heritage is a subdivision out there. There's a mailbox. So we turn the bus around there now, just like when we send the bus from Warren to pick up these kiddos, we would turn that bus around coming from Warren at the same Mountain Heritage area. So then like this bus already serving this area, they basically need a spot to turn around. It would have to be Mountain Heritage anyways. So then that's a great example of how a courtesy route works for one side and how transportation works for the other side, because they need that. We have certain requirements for a bus turnaround. It has to be improved. It has to be so many, so big, it has to be safe for kids to be, lots of things like that. So this area here will go Warren, Helena Middle, and then Helena High. Okay, next one. And kind of last one. This one is like I would call it the projection one. This is the area north and east of Super One Foods, Kings Crossing subdivisions out there. It's kind of north of Costco, north of Home Depot. So really there's a growing amount of housing, but there aren't a lot of kids there. So then what we didn't want to do is this neighborhood is sending all of its kids to Bryant, the Lowe's. If Buffalo Wild Wings were a school, it would go to Bryant. Like literally that's where these pieces are. So we're projecting that there'll be kids in these high density housing areas someday, and we need them to go to Rossiter north on the frontage road and then under the interstate and to Rossiter. Okay. So there aren't a lot of kids in there right now, but someday we think that would be good. So I want to get to the numbers now. This is like the passion. People will look at these numbers and think that you're changing Fort Georgian school enrollment by 70 tomorrow, which is not true. That is not how this works. These 70 kids, first off, haven't enrolled yet, basically. And that's 70 divided by the 6th grade levels that are there per year of change. So what that means is you take 70 divided by the 6th grade levels, and there's about 11 kids per grade that would change to another school other than Fort Georgians, which we're saying is Rossiter. So Rossiter won't grow by 70 overnight either. So then this is a gradual adjustment of take the amount of grade levels and divide it by the amount of grade levels in that school. And that's the estimate for what the changes will be over the course of years it'll take to get there. So this is a long-term, long thinking ahead plan so as to not disrupt the current patterns of where our families and kids are going to school. But what that does to Fort Georgians is it allows us to first off get kids, like I said, this is a heartbreaker. You have a late enrollment kid to a school, lives right next door, and you got to overflow them far to another school. That's not best. That they might really need that place in that building. That's been our pattern for a long time, is to overflow when schools are full. We're trying to create capacity in schools to be able to do that. It is just something that's a really big priority. It'll improve student learner outcomes. Same with Jim Darcy. Jim Darcy and Fort Georgians kind of lockstep are at capacity in our school district. They'll always, I think, have high student enrollment for our school district. Having the ability to be able to say yes to families is really important out there. And that's something we want to do. And we can get the folks that are literally the folks north of the Lake Helena. That'll be a hard change. We did get some questions from them, but not many. The kids haven't enrolled yet. That kind of thing. We'll get them to Warren. Warren needs more enrollment. C.R. Anderson, we've heard about it being too big for a long time. We're trying to do something about it so that we can have improved student learner outcomes at C.R. Anderson, and for Helena Middle to have equivalent programming opportunities for students. But then that change takes years, and it would be like 30 kids a grade level. But you remember, those are a lot more kids in that grade level, because it's one class at a time for what you would change. And then our overall ending number would be Capital and Helena High are more near. They're not going to be exactly the same, but that's why Rex has been talking about the need for us to address our boundaries frequently. 5 to 10 year cycles. And so I wasn't going to use this, but I'm going to use this as farmer rancher that I'm learning to be. You got to fix your fences every year. You got to maintain certain things, or they get out of balance, and then you're behind, and then you got problems. And so then we need to watch our enrollments over time and adjust them with, like, I want to say these are boundary adjustments. They're not flipping whole schools to go to another place. That would not be tolerated by our community. It's also not what we need. We would flip like one high school or one middle school so big and the other one so low if we switched to whole school setting. So we need to continue fixing our fences and mending our boundaries a little bit at a time, for the benefit of our students to be able to get the most outcomes they can get in their setting. So that's kind of the whole thing, all in one shot. The questions we've got have centered around, and so we've gotten 8 total questions on the web interface. We got a few, 4 or 5 yesterday. So before that time, we were like 3. So within those 8 comments, there might have been more than one question. So, and that's fine, but questions centered around, does my child get to attend the school they're currently in? They might have been worse fear like comments first off, but once they heard that, yes, they get to stay, there's like 3 of those. Some wanted to know the location of the courtesy route. Sounds good. Look, approachable. Appropriate answer. Does the district have in-district transfer request processes? Yes, we do. Why did the district choose the line they did? So then you got to walk them through the part where, why didn't you just pick a different neighborhood or move an entire school? Kind of got to go through the deeper why for why it can't be that. And then they are more understandable. Might not like the line still, but then they understand it. And then there were 3 thanks for doing this. It was a long time. Been a long time. Should have been, something that be addressed. So thank you. That's kind of the positive one, and they're all been really cordial and very, very appropriate in how they've asked questions and things. So it's a community like dialogue that is creative, I would say. So they're all been very productive conversations. Okay. So then with that, that's the recommendation is from us, maybe you take care of those words.
Take care of the, yes, Mr. McKay, again, I think that full display of Mr. McKay's thoughtfulness and his math brain, if you will, just walking through and the reasons and how we got here. Super great work. We've been doing this for quite a while. Boundaries are never easy. Never. This is that north-south line, adjusting it a little bit to back into the west and grabbing more students and bring them back to the east, just to balancing that out. I've said it for years, is that we need to look at these every 10 years. We can't wait 40 or 50 years and then make adjustments. These are things that we should be talking about often, and it's just kind of an exercise. I like the mending fences idea. Is it really, you should be working on your fences, you should be working on your boundaries all the time. I'd ask that the recommendation before you is that you approve the adjustments to the boundaries as presented by Mr. McKay and the leadership team.
Question. Just in case the board turns over and the administration turns over, should we formalize reevaluation in any way? It somehow slipped through the last cracks that we got this big long chunk of time. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Policy or I don't know, something.
I think it'd be worth exploring. We might not necessarily have a pathway today, but I think that is definitely something worth looking at and kind of figuring out how that would look and how to present it.
I think that's a great idea. I'm not speaking on my behalf or our team, but as leadership turns over, these are areas that most people don't want to touch. And so if there's an opportunity that you had mentioned, if it's in administrative procedures, if it's our processes, maybe it's not our policy, it could be policy. Let's explore that. But if we had somewhere that would urge the next round of leaders that they don't have an opportunity to shy away from it, like that you are going to talk about it on the decade. Every decade you're going to visit. I think it helps leaders have the ability to say, yeah, we need to do this, and this is part of what we do in Helena Public Schools. So let's table that thought, but I will bring it back as I'll see what the other double A's and I think during policy, we probably would ask council, has BS seen this in policy, or do we wrap this up in some sort of a procedure? Fair enough? Yeah.
I second that. Representative Muskevich, who I talked with yesterday, was like, hey, I see that you're bringing up boundaries on top of everything else tomorrow. So I think it just makes it easier. I want to thank you for all the work that you've done. I want to thank this board and previous board members, because this all really started with pushing a master facilities plan, Trustee Hathorn, and saying we are going to use it, which turned out to be very proactive, because then Mr. Verrill came up and said, I have a crisis. And so it's all kind of come together. I do really appreciate the fact that you listed all the communication, because people come into this process at certain points and they may think this is the very first time it's been out there. I know it's been out there more, but I can't remember it. So to have a list of like that, I think is just very helpful for us and the public to know, hey, this has been addressed about 7 times in varying depths, right, as we go through it. But it's just helpful to show that we are being transparent when not everyone can attend every meeting. So
yeah, that's intentional. That's not by accident. And it's also intentional that you saw that with CMS, or that we talk about the number of times we've discussed this. It's not overnight decisions, that we are thoughtful enough to talk about it for years, if you will.
Even just looking at what's been documented, I mean, it feels like the first real tangible conversation was in February, and here we are February, right? So a year of actual definitive planning and communication about it. So yeah, a lot of hard work and a lot of time. So thank you. And we always appreciate all the detail and the explanation to help us support the decisions that we make. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
I just want to make one additional comment. You referenced
Mr. McKay's math brain, but I'm just so struck with how carefully you have worked with individual people, fielded, their concerns and just been so considerate about their particular situation. So it's the empathy brain going on there too. I appreciate it.
I will jump on that comment that math brain it is, and X's and O's and numbers come easy for Mr. McCabe. He's also really great at working one-on-one with individuals and families. So that's, those two skill sets coupled together. This is, if I was going to pick someone to do this work, that's the model. So appreciate I think as I sit back here and think about all the work that we've talked about tonight, really proud of the work that we've done, and some really hard work and heavy lifts, and that doesn't come by accident. We have a really good team that's doing this around me and in our district. So proud of the work that we're doing.
Other comments or questions? Okay, I think the big momentous moments. I will entertain a motion on this action item.
I move for the approval of district-wide boundary adjustments.
Thank you. I have a motion from trustee Hathorn. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a second from trustee Myers. All right. Do we have any public comment? Any further board discussion?
I'd just like to say thank you, Josh, for all the work, and everybody else. I know what it takes to try to balance, believe me. So, and I'm excited to see a plan in place. And I like the idea that it needs to be on the board's docket at least 5 years, maybe 3 years, just the way growth and movement in this district. So thank you.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Motion passes 8-0. Yes. Oh, it's okay. Okay. It might be 7-0 then. We'll make the adjustment as needed. Thank you. Appreciate that, Candace. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our reports. Student representative reports. Miss Lynch, can I throw you to the fire first and have you go?
Your way.
No, good. All right. Good evening, everyone. So we are wrapping up second quarter at Capitol with finals week being next week for us. So we have that Monday off, as Superintendent Welts said earlier, and then Tuesday they treat as kind of like a review day, final questions day, and then we jump into finals that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Super happy this year that finals is 3 days. Last year, the end of second semester, they got crammed into 2. So kids could potentially have 4 finals a day if you have 0 through 7. And that I think was just probably not conducive to a great finals outcome for some students. 4 finals a day is pretty intense. So this year we have 3 days, 0 first and second on the first day, 3rd, 4th, 5th on the second day, and then 6th and 7th periods on that Friday. We had our annual holiday assembly on the last day before break. So it kind of was, I would say, more musical, performance based and arts focused, which was super cool to see. Our jazz band performed, as well as our modern bands, and the teacher band performed. And if you've ever seen our teacher band, they're incredible, and it's incredibly fun to see them perform. So it's always awesome to have them there. And then we also had the finalists from the Capitol High Has Talent kind of initiative, and then students voted on that for the top act. It was really a great way to kind of start off the holiday break. We also had our Poetry Out Loud contest that was held last Thursday. Miss Braco, our drama teacher, creates that opportunity, so super shout out to her for creating a super cool opportunity. First place was Addison Lasso, second was Elizabeth Marin, third was William Shropshire, and then our alternate was Araya Harrison. Night to Shine is the 17th. This is the 33rd annual Night to Shine. So both, I think, Helen High and Capitol High DECA are starting to work on that, and auditions, I think, are happening right now. I love Night to Shine. It's so cool. As a student, I'm always just so envious of everybody who gets up there, because first of all, to have the guts to perform in front of your peers is really impressive, but also so much talent in our district, and I love that that gets to be showcased. We are starting registration at Capitol, so current juniors will be registering for next year's classes. the week of February 9th. Current sophomores will do it the week of February 16th. Current freshmen the week of February 23rd. And then current 8th graders will be doing it the week of March 16th. March 17th, they'll come to Capitol and we'll show them around. And then 18th, they'll have their parent night for incoming freshmen. And then March 20th is when the counselors will go back to CR and officially collect their registration things. A shout out to our counseling staff who deals with that, because we have 1,300 kids at Capitol, so 1,300 registration forms is a lot. Little colored pieces of paper with a lot of information, and people tend to get a little bit anxious about their classes being correct. So love to shout out the counselors. They do a great job, super approachable, always answer questions, always on top of it. Just an amazing group of people. So tonight we had the DAG meeting number 3 with the architects, and it is a collection of mostly 9th and 10th grade students, I would say, who have been most present at the meetings. Of course, they want input from everyone, but those are the kids who will get to live in that school. So I'm glad that they're emphasized on the input. And then on Wednesday, there is a monthly staff meeting, which I personally have heard great feedback about. Teachers are super excited to be really included as part of the process. And so I think that's a great thing that's happening. And these, I think they happen once a month on the second Wednesday of the month at lunchtime. And I've noticed just from walking around, it's kind of like a dead zone because they're all in the auditorium. Nobody's in their classroom. So that's super cool to see. The CHS school leadership team is meeting with our literacy consultant, Liz Tuss, Wednesday afternoon. And the goal of this meeting is to really figure out how to integrate that standardized testing data into the classroom and make sure that we're filling holes with students and catching students who maybe need some extra help or areas of improvement, so that we can also kind of align with our Cognia external accreditation team requirements. We found out before the holiday break that we are once again Cognia accredited, and that the review team identified one area of noteworthy achievement as well as recommendations for 3 areas of focus. So we definitely have room for improvement. And then, as Superintendent Welts spoke about earlier, we had the speech and the Valley of Gold speech and debate tournament that was held at CHS this past Friday and Saturday. And I just want to thank everybody who volunteered to help out with that, because it's such an amazing opportunity for students, and it takes a village to, do all those things. I'm personally not involved, but I'm always impressed when people just be snappy about their arguments and so well prepared and so amazing. So I'm glad that they got to showcase their talents. And that's all I have. Looking forward to finals week and start a second semester.
Well, thank you. It's exciting to hear all the wonderful things happening there at Capitol. Any questions? Okay. Mr. Gardapi, what we have going on over at Helena?
Just to start off, like a little bit off of my student report, she was talking about Night to Shine, and I think because it's such like a big event in Helena, like it's something that brings together everyone from both sides of Helena High and Capitol High. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit more. I'm a member of DECA, so I would really like to highlight like Helena High DECA, who's gone out and gotten all of our sponsorships for Night to Shine. They got reached out and have gotten every single sponsorship for Night to Shine, so it was a really good job on our members. But the performances, I didn't get to judge them. My sister judged them. And then I've been talking to Askin about it, and the choir teacher came, and it sounded like we have some really good people coming, and I'm really excited, especially after having the winter assembly, because we saw some real good talent, and I was really shocked because I never knew we had that much talent at our school. But holy, if you didn't go to the I believe it was in the library with the orchestra and the choir, if you guys didn't go to that, I heard a little bit of it. Dang, like next time there's an opportunity, I recommend going. It was amazing. But anyway, it's good to see you all again. It's felt like forever, especially with the winter break. I definitely really needed the break. It was a good time to catch up with some family. And just like Delaney said, final week around the corner, and gotta be like the worst week of the school year, in my opinion. I'm very thankful that it's sort of my last final week. I mean, it's a little bit more relaxed for seniors on the second one, but definitely, boy, do I hate those. But going on, something to look forward to is registration, as Delaney said too. for the 2026-2027 school year. Again, I don't have to worry about that, just college registration stuff. So a little bit of a new chapter, kind of exciting. But it's also exciting for Helena High because you get to see what the future Bengals are looking forward to and what classes they're signing up to. Really cool to see. This week, students were also given the opportunity to talk with the architect team to input their voice about future, like the future of the school building. And Tuesday, which is today, and tomorrow, any students in the school are able to talk to the architect while they're set like time away. For student council of the eighth graders and the 7th graders, 6th graders come together, and the Helena High come together, and they're going to have a time. So the future Helena High are going to be able to input their voices while the current Helena High get to put in their voices. So I'm really excited because, I mean, obviously we kind of see the poor of it, but it's also really important to see what the future wants as well. And I don't know if we've really touched on that too much, so it'd be really cool to see. This past weekend, we also co-hosted one of the largest speech and debate tournaments with Capital. I don't know, like, I may have been confused on a point. From the notes I got at our school, the competitions were held at Helena High, but I don't actually know. But according to our notes, a lot of people did great from both schools. We also had winter formal, and this past Friday, we had roughly 200 students attend. It was a great time. It looked great. The theme was Great Gatsby. I don't actually know what that is. I don't know if that's a bad thing, but
I gave him a big one.
yeah, might need to do a little bit of research into that. I'm going to move on to congratulations now, and I'd also like to congratulate 12 football players for receiving all conference or all state awards. Many of them also received multiple awards. It was crazy, and I didn't want to keep you all here like all night, but I was just like, it's just like all state, all conference, and then it was like this, and it was just one player, and then there's 12, and I was just like, that would be a lot to list. Then I would also like to congratulate Miss Swingett and Miss Kotek on receiving their national board certifications. They're great teachers and they do amazing things at Helena High. And I would also like to thank Mr. Cleary, Mr. Hollow, and Miss Kotek for their work putting together that holiday assembly. It's got to be a lot of work, but they definitely put in the time, you could tell, and the outcomes were just great. And I think everyone in the audience could tell. Finally, thanks to our janitorial team for cleaning up the schools to the best of their ability. Like I highlighted when we were talking about why we needed a new school, they're very unpleasant, is the best way to put it. So you could see that they put all their effort in, and it's just really appreciated to have. And finally, coming up, we have our donuts that we hand out on January 15th, and the second round of RBHI testing comes out February 2nd, and thankfully, I don't have to take those.
On 50?
Yeah.
And I believe trustees, you guys are invited for that?
I think a casual invite. I don't know that it's been on a calendar, but
Yeah.
I don't
remember an email.
Could have been.
I better check and make sure.
Okay. We eat a lot of
I'll
donuts.
check it.
We love the donut.
For the students, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a food group, right?
It's a food group.
Okay, maybe I was got special treatment. I got offers there.
Well, zero period is my first period, like the in between time there, it gets chaotic, let me tell you. Like those zero period students, they're fighting for donuts because like when they're like coming out of their class, the line is just gigantic. They're like, we're not, it's like everyone's just like, we're not going. Like, we're going to the class. Like, we're gonna be late.
All right, well, thank you for that report. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the Helena Education Association report.
When I spoke with Jane, she
Mhm.
was going to be online, but she did not have anything.
Okay, okay, perfect. Thank you. How about Facilities and Technology Committee report?
Yes, we met yesterday. The first item was Amoresco, and they presented to us at the Helena High Library. I don't know if you remember that. So it's a energy savings program, which works into savings for us. It allows us to start projects right away, save energy, save on energy bills. So we're moving forward with that. Was a report on wind damage was $20,000 to $25,000, but it was an insurance claim, but they were very busy picking up and sawing stumps and all kinds of things. The Smith Boiler project is ongoing. They're working on that. The solar design for Smith, which they worked with SMA, is now complete. And they also are doing a whole lot of fire marshal re-inspections at the moment. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Trustee Hathorn? All right. How about budget and finance?
Okay, the meeting today was fairly short. Some highlights were at the elementary level, there was kind of a big percentage, although small dollar difference in overtime, really for custodial. And we kind of discussed, like, since COVID, maybe we've been underestimating custodial needs, and also in facilities. I think every month Todd has, I have like 5 and 3 left. So it's this kind of constant rotation, which leads into the overtime. But I think the key takeaways were, if you looked at the big pie in elementary, 88% of the budget is spent on staff, which is down significantly from when we started with the deficit. So we're good. High school is 83% on staff, and that does account for reducing some of the load that, we had temporarily increased. The superintendent briefly mentioned the early retirement plan, remembering that we have these STAR requirements now between our beginning teachers and our senior teachers, so that's helping with that. Having the 2-year contracts is just very helpful in terms of projections and estimations and stability in the numbers. The bond will be discussed more as we go into the future. In December, the bonds were closed. We have the money. We're earning interest. We've now started asking for, some may have already done, start sending some invoices. So as we get those in, we'll be updating you on how we're spending the money. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Vice Chair Walsh. I apologize. Tech goes in with facilities. I have the tech.
yes.
So
Okay.
if
you don't mind, I'll add that in now. Okay. Spring count day, as far as state reporting, has recently happened, as well as putting in the counts for behavior reports. And as you know, our funding is based on those counts. It's the average of the 2 counts, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's our current enrollment, not an actual head count, right? At that time?
Correct.
Okay. Just to,
Where the old days where it was butts and seats, right?
Yep.
Counting each kid, now it's the current.
there learned a lot about passwords the last few meetings. You can hack into a password with 8 characters in 48 hours. So that we're making them much longer, and I rarely miss being a teacher, but teaching 20 to 30 kids their new passwords when they're under 3rd grade would be really challenging, but it's got to happen, and I know that it's worthwhile. For safety and security, they're working on camera server updates and the door fobs for the Kinder Sprouts, and then working on with the new builds and looking for various projection options as we're looking for technology in our new buildings. So my apologies for leaving that out.
Thank you. And thank you for adding that back in. Okay, how about teaching and learning committee? Is that
tomorrow? That's me too.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you have?
Yeah, we did have.
Yeah, Trustee Hawthorne has been voluntold.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I love it. Thank you.
I'll just keep going. Okay. There were actually 3 items on the December teaching and learning, but our conversations were so robust that we discussed homelessness and our English language program and IFA as well. But we saved the data, and so that data will be tomorrow. So for homelessness, it was very robust, and these topics at that point were very heartfelt too. We continue to have increasing numbers. We talked a lot of homelessness. We talked a lot about the insecurity that surrounded the government shutdown and how that affected our homeless population and some of our populations that were just really suffering from that. And with the new information that it's possible to have another government shutdown, those things are really tough on our families that are struggling to get things done and just to survive as best they can. We had a really good report from our EL. It's my understanding we just have one EL teacher in the district?
Yes.
Yep. She's very busy. We're one of the few states that doesn't have state funding for EL, so that has to come out of our other funds. There's many needs, a lot of community support. They're just working to get mostly the language pieces in place as soon as they can. We also had a really fun introduction of all the IFA coaches. They all came and introduced themselves and let us know what their specialties were and what they were doing. It was a really good presentation. They had a couple items that I heard as takeaways. They would like more integration of Indian Ed into the curriculum, like math or history or reading or anywhere. And they were extremely willing to go ahead and give any support that anyone would need. And the other thing that came up was maybe a bigger focus for Native American Day next year. So just thought I'd throw that out there. So anyway, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any questions?
I'm just curious about numbers. Do you have numbers for the homelessness? I'm curious about how much those have
happened before
increased.
Christmas.
Yeah, that's fine. Totally fine.
We can get those for you, but I don't. I didn't have. I just had to go off my memory. So,
Yeah, no,
yep.
that's totally fine.
I believe that, and we can forward that off. I think there was an infographic coming out of our staff, so we'll forward those off. It talks
Okay.
about where we're at and where we've been.
Yeah, I was just curious about that.
I'm not sure if you saw that or not.
Yeah, they did share numbers. I don't remember them, but it was fairly significant that that shutdown was really impactful in a negative way.
I got it right here.
We'll forward it to you.
Okay,
Great. Yeah, thank you.
perfect. Yeah, thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving into policy committee, we didn't actually meet this month. There wasn't really anything pressing, so we're going to go ahead and meet in February. So health and benefits committee.
Okay, I know you're waiting for this with bated breath. Actually, I know that you have seen a number of, board members have seen a number of communications about this, emails back and forth. So, yeah, we've met quite frequently over the last month. We met December 10th, and then we met with Alliant to review plan information. Then we met also on January 5th with Prism, who's the consultant for our pharmacy, to review Capital RX, which is the prescription vendor selected by Bridged Health Alliance. And then we met January 8th also. We met again with Bridged for a presentation, and then online were our consultants Prism and Alliant, and we had Q&A sessions. So as you know, the focus of the committee is to explore and analyze whether or not we should join Bridged Health Alliance, that decision was maybe at one point going to be made a month or two ago, but we've been able to postpone that decision as we have tried really hard to understand, all the arguments, maybe not all, many arguments either for or against joining. Let's see. So I think I'm just going to say a couple of overall things that I think we've heard in these meetings, in this collection of meetings. So all parties, including Bridged and our consultants, point out that at least in the short term, either option, to go with Bridged or not to go with Bridged, will not produce a lot of savings to our plan or to our members. So financially, there are some potential savings in the short term. But that it's not, it's not going to be significant. Their longer term benefits, I think that's a kind of a bigger question. Possibly joining Bridged would enable us to join a larger risk pool for stop loss insurance, producing potential savings there. It could also enable us in the longer term to gain more stability and predictability in premiums and in costs for services. But through this all, a really big challenge emphasized by our consultants is that because Bridge is still a work in process, they're trying to secure, to meet the threshold set by the legislature, which is yeses for 150 school districts and 12,000 employees in order to be able to validate the trust. They're trying to get those numbers. So they're working hard to get commitments, but at the same time, they're having to negotiate the terms that are kind of behind these commitments, right? And so there's just a real challenge that Bridged is facing. They're trying to get people to say yes, but they're offering terms that aren't yet clear because all the partners they're negotiating with are waiting to hear what the numbers are, right? So our consultants have really emphasized that some of the terms in the Bridge proposal are then less concrete than they want to see, and they have just been recommending a lot of caution in going forward. That's also because they see, and Bridged has also said, that our plan as it is now is a fairly good plan. And of course, we never know how things are going to go in the future because it's health insurance, but that at least at this point, for instance, we just changed our pharmacy from Express Scripts to Right Way. Their pharmacy for Bridged is Capital RX, but Right Way and Capital RX seem to be very comparable, both in structure and kind of philosophy, and then also in, the cost. So I guess maybe the committee has really been diligently thinking through potential gains and risks. If we join, it's a 5-year commitment. If we don't join this year, it's possible we could join next year. I mean, this isn't a one-time hop on the train or otherwise you're out. However, there's always the risk that if we don't join, or if too many districts decide to wait and see, then the trust won't get validated, right? The majority of AA districts have indicated a willingness to join. Several have said yes, but with contingency clauses, so that if some of the proposals don't materialize as Bridged finishes their negotiations, they can then opt out. We're meeting again, the Health Benefits Committee, on January 22nd. We're hoping to have a couple more answers about specific points in Bridged proposal at that time. We also had thought we might, at our very most recent meeting last Thursday, we thought we might get to a vote, but we also felt like if we wanted to propose that we say yes with contingencies, if we even wanted to go that route, we needed to figure out more about that contingency language. What would that look like? So that could be, even in order to even entertain a yes with contingencies vote. So meeting January 22nd, we're doing some work on those things. And then I think our hope is that we will come to a decision at that point, and then we'll be able to bring a recommendation to the board. But I guess overall, as you can tell, it isn't a slam dunk decision. It really is, potential risks, potential gains, and they're not weighing out in a really clear, this is for sure the best thing to do. At least that's, I think, representing the committee at this point where we are. So do you have questions? Rex, would you like to? Yeah.
Could you just, when you say consultants, tell me.
Mr. Meyer, would you do me a favor? Could you hit your mic?
I will do that.
Go online or-
Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you just help me understand when you say consultants, who
Yes.
who are they representing?
So Alliant
Okay.
is our consultant for the Helena our self-funded plan
Okay.
for the district, in medical concerns, and
Okay.
PRISM
Is,
is the consultant for our pharmacy. Thank you. Sorry, and PRISM, oh, I'm so sorry. I did that whole thing without my blue light on. And PRISM is the RX consultant.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Other questions? Yep.
Okay, I just want to thank you. This has been quite the slog, and I feel like it's been slightly dry. But despite that, this committee seems to have really gone in depth and asked a lot of questions and have not been willing to compromise, even though there's pressure to make this trust happen, but really taking the needs and the kind of the financial safety of the district, because you guys, you put in, I don't think people realize, you put in a ton of work every year to look at parts of the program and make it better each year, which is why we're saying that we have a really good program. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you for that. You're welcome. Yes.
Yes. Couple things. First of all, I believe we've seen a couple emails come over into our inboxes with staff having support for this, for the statewide plan. So I'm not sure if that plays into that, or if you have a sense of what the staff is wanting to do in this arena.
Well, first of all, the committee is comprised, it's pretty representative of staff across the district. So, there are paras on there are teachers, and I think we certainly note staff interest and concern. We've been also, I'll just say, trying to provide a little more communication, because it's we've been going back and forth, discussion going on about what Bridged actually offers, or what it represents for us, and kind of what we do currently. So I think we're listening to those. And I think the majority of people on the committee are, working side by side with these people. I think they bring a lot of sort of comments that people have shared with them, in addition to the emails that we see. So I would say yes. I mean, I think there is a concern in listening to what people are saying. Yeah.
We good? I was gonna let
Anybody else have questions for Trustee Sandry?
maybe I'll quite a task. House Bill 332, from the inception of the bill passage, supporting the bill, not knowing what way we're going to go, but you couldn't open this door if it was never going to be presented and passed through legislation. So good intentions. I don't think that, as some bills are written, we're not sure how they're going to be rolled out and implemented. And this has been a tough task for John Doran and his team of Mighty Three, trying to persuade, influence, and or present a package that could be good for the state of Montana, which my dad was a school trustee in the 80s, and they talked about this. It's been a long time coming. You see examples across the state, especially in the double A's, of how this is rolled out in each one of those communities. And it's not been clean. It's been really clunky. Through it all, we've had Great Falls that said there's no way we'll ever do this. And they've now changed and said we are entertaining it. Billings would be the model of that as well. There's no way we'll ever do this in Billings. And now they pass with contingencies. Bozeman's full in, Butte, Belgrade, Missoula, Kalispell, all in. Some fully, some with contingencies, some against their consultants' will, is saying don't do it, and yet they did. Our consultants are not saying don't. They're also not saying yes. I mean, they're in this neutral sense. I would also argue from Ms. Satry's perspective that some of the teachers and the committee have had a peer group in which they're probably talking to. My team sat in front of the teacher advisory while I was in the health benefits meeting listening. Teacher advisory would say they have no idea what's going on. We do not know. And so we've come around the table and are going to correct that. In fact, that we're going to try to make sure that there's a communication committee out of the health benefits committee that's responsible for sharing that information. Often I feel responsible to making sure we get that out, but it's really a communication. I'm going to put some pressure on them to make sure that the staff knows. I see that Michelle still on. We talk often. She is said in many of our meetings, and she says, I go across the district and I no longer hear the concerns that I've used to, except for one. And that's the health committee. That's the health benefits. We're not sure what's going to happen there. I also see the emails that you get in terms of board of we've got to join the health. We got to join House Bill 332 or the bridged, so that we see instant savings. And I would caution everyone: this is not a short-term savings. We're not going to see hundreds of dollars in people's pockets if we join bridge. Here's what will happen. The gist of this Bridge Health Alliance is in a long-term planning. Sustainability is that right now our premiums are set off of the Charge Master. Charge Master is based off of your inflationary increases, and that's very volatile. If you ask our health benefits manager and our committee, is that can you predict what our next year's premiums will be? You'll say no. There's no way predicting what those premiums are going to be. They're all over the place. It's based on inflation. What Bridge could potentially be bringing out is that we would be basing the premiums on inflationary increases off of the multiple Medicare. Multiple Medicare is predictable. It's 1, 2, or 3%. It has been for hundreds of years. It will still be the same. You're not going to see large savings in people's pockets. What you will see is a savings to the program, and so that you can build up your reserves over years, and then you can take those reserves and then you can apply them somewhere else within your own program. And so there will be predictability. You will see savings, as we talked about, in our stop loss, and you'll see it in our administrative fees. I think we are right spot on. Our RX plan will be the same. I think that's a wash. I don't know if we're going to see anything different out of that. Customer service, I think there's some 24/7 technology and apps that will help with our staff. But I don't think that if we even move into the contingency spaces, which Kalispell, Missoula, Bozeman, Belgrade, and Billings, they all entered with this contingency plan. And if they don't meet the contingencies, if Bridge cannot build contracts with our medical facilities based on the chart or off of multiple Medicare, if we can't get that assignment, then Bridge will come back to us with a participation list and say, we can't do it. Are you willing to do it now? And we can say, no, we're not willing because you didn't do what we need you to do. We're out. Right? That's the contingency piece that I think is what most other AAs have gone. I also know that if we've got a really great program with St. Pete's, and when the narrow network and on our contracts, we will get to keep that. It's the same contracts we'll if we move in. Our third-party administrator for Bridge is the same people that we work with right now. That's Allegiant, right? Allegiance. They've come out and said, it sounds like a really great deal. We have nothing to lose. We suggest that you probably move forward with this because I think it's not a bad deal for you to move forward with. So there is a lot going on here in consultings, and this world is not an easy area to navigate. I think there's a lot of plays going on. At the end of the day, I won't do what happened in Missoula. Their health benefits committee came back and said 8-1, let's not do it. Their superintendent said, thanks for the information, I'm still bringing it to the board and so the board had to go and choose either the health benefits committee and or their superintendent and which route the board was going to go. And that caused a lot of concerns, if you will. I won't do it. I'm not going to. If the Health Benefits Committee comes in with a recommendation, that's the recommendation. We'll move forward. I may not agree with it, but that is the committee's wishes. Now, the board may have other ideas, but I think that came out as a question with the Health Benefits Committee. What's Mr. Welch, what's the board going to do? And I honor recommendations. I think that makes a lot of sense. But we'll need to make some considerations if it's the right choice or not. And if we don't go in, as you said, Ms. Satry, we have next year. I do believe that the numbers are going to be there. I think we'll hear that here in the next week or two. It'll get validated. However, so that takes some of the pressure off the district. Is like, if we don't do it, then we're going to lose this for the entire state. But if we don't move in, then I think what we heard was there's $50,000 or $100,000 on the table in 1 year that could be saved and or lost. Right. So there's some benefits in moving in forward. It is really not an easy decision, and our committee has gone through it with their due diligence. They really have. But I also know that we are fearful of change, and I also think that we put a lot of merit into our consultants, and we should. But I also want to be cautious of what that looks like, because is it what's best for all of us? Fair enough. Yeah.
One more question. As far as the stability of having a larger group, and maybe Vice Chair Walsh, you could help me with this. Wasn't there a time, I know we were in the other boardroom, where we needed to backfill into the health savings count? Do you remember that?
Yeah, there was.
At 1.6 million?
We put over $1 million into.
And Janelle said no, and we did it, and that was really hard. Does that ring a bell? So I'm wondering if that is played into.
It is. It absolutely.
Played into the decision making.
Yeah.
Thinking about when we had to.
We've got a lot of.
Are you talking about when we had to approve $1.5 million
Yeah.
addition in premiums?
To cover.
To cover. And my understanding of that, it was right when I first came on the board. My understanding of that was we had to do that because that was the premium increase that was being required. In some previous years, we've been able to draw from our unreserves in order to buffer that. We could decrease the amount of premium increase percent that we passed on to, the plan. And we had a bargaining agreement that we would pay for, a single premium option fully. And so in order to live up to that, we had to put in the $1.5 million.
So I guess my question is, like, in general, would being in a larger pool help us avoid that sort of thing?
I certainly think that that's one of the rationales and the hopes of joining a larger pool.
We still get to manage, sorry to interrupt you. We get to manage our self-funded plan. We're still funded. We still get to manage it. We get to set those premiums on how we see fit. So I'm not sure by gaining a larger pool, if that's going to offset the liabilities of what we negotiate out of our negotiated agreements. But what the larger pool does give us is buying power and contractual stability, that we have a much larger group that we can say to a wider range of providers. We wouldn't just say St. Pete's now. We'd have benefits in Bone and Joint out of Missoula and Bozeman Health. We all would have that same series of contracts that we could choose from. I know that Jane has her hand up and she came online. So would we be okay with moving forward? Oh, is it? Yeah. It's under. Well, Jane, you turned your screen on. I thought for sure it was you. I'm giving you the opportunity. She just panicked. Like, I just took. Sorry about that, Jane. No, you're me.
But yeah, Trustee McKee, if you want to go ahead and come off mute.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for a great meeting. It's just wanted to address your point, Trustee Hathorn. And again, the committee has done yeoman's work on this. We're not going to be in a larger pool. That's the way Bridged is structured, is currently structuring its plan offering. Like our pool, we are self-funded. That means all of our money and all of our risk stays in one bucket, and we will continue to be self-funded. So we're not going to be in a larger pool of of insurance, quote unquote. There is one place in which we will be, and that is our stop loss. And for those of you who don't spend your time thinking about insurance terms and are living a good life, stop loss is insurance has insurance, and stop loss is basically the insurance that your insurance has. So that will be pooled across the state. And what that means is that if, let's say, our plan has a loss of, and I'm picking these numbers out of thin air, but like one person is costing 250,000 or whatever, then the stop loss comes in to pick up the difference. Stop loss with Bridged will be pooled across the board, and that's where Helena will really get the, any gains that could be realized in terms of a larger pool. There's a kind of a belief in insurance that if you have a larger pool, then it's automatically going to go down, but not really, because if the people who join your pool are less healthy than you, your costs could actually go up. So our pool is well run, and that was one of the sticking points that I personally had as a trustee, is I didn't really want to give up what we had as a self-insured entity. We have flexibility, and we have sort of like permanent agency over our own fortunes by staying unto ourselves. If we throw ourselves into a pool that is statewide, we lose control over what happens to us. Even if we don't like the things that we can control, we at least can control them. So that the money that we had to put in, whatever, 3 or 4 years ago, that was to cover losses from our own medical experiences. And part of one thing that Bridge will do, which is, an improvement in my mind, is that no self-insured plan is regulated by the insurance commissioner's office, but Bridged will be. We didn't want to raise rates on our people, so we allowed our unreserves to get, quite honestly, lower than what an insurance regulator would have allowed. We allowed our plan to become unhealthy, and then we had to buy it out, basically. Bridged can't do that. They are regulated, and they will be analyzed by the insurance commissioner's office, and the insurance commissioner's office has actually hired a special actuary to make sure that what they're putting together makes sense. So that's another kind of benefit that I see, and I don't want to speak for Trustee Satry, who has really spent, and probably seems like most of her adult life talking about this. And then one thing about the multiplier of Medicare, I mean, Mr. Welts is correct that Medicare rates are set by the federal government and they go up incrementally. But one thing that's important to remember is that when you're talking about a multiplier of Medicare, that would be something that all of the hospitals in the state would have to agree to. So we're not talking about Medicare plus some amount of money. We're talking about, are you going to be 300% of Medicare, 350% of Medicare? We're still talking about increases that may be larger and more unpredictable than we can kind of theorize at this moment. But nonetheless, there is a benefit in negotiating that way. Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling. I just want to make it a note, Trustee Hathorn, that we're not actually joining a larger pool for anything other than our insurance company's insurance. But there are some nuanced benefits to joining Bridged, and having watched what the committee's done, I can sort of see all the sides. I'm gonna mute myself. I've talked enough for someone who's not even there.
Just thank you. I'm just actually just trying to learn and think of the things that have happened and how they apply to this decision. So I really have no foregone conclusions at all.
Could I comment?
I'll go after you.
Oh, I was just gonna, I think, kind of piggyback on what Trustee McKee just talked about, which is just that stop loss. And our stop loss last year went up 9%. It's not a, it's not a minor element in our insurance plan. And so the stop loss is one place that's pooled. The other thing that's pooled is the admin. And again, we have Allegiance already, but the TPA for the Bridged would be the same as us. They may be able to negotiate for better administration fees. That's possible. And then the other place is the RX plan. So if we join Bridged, we also have to, we don't get to choose our own RX, our pharmacy benefit, our PBM, we have to go with Capital RX.
And that's statewide.
That's a
That's
statewide.
statewide. So much like stop loss, the RX side is going to be a
Those are
statewide,
the-
large
those are the
contracts.
places where we kind of pool. And in doing that, we do give up some autonomy. And there's possibility, but not absolute certainty, that we'll end up saving some money there. That's my understanding, anyway.
Correct me if I get this wrong, but what happened to us before is that we had to vote before Janelle was able to run the numbers on what it would actually cost, because of when contracts and stuff were due, when Rich got his information, and then he had to have an answer. So the board had to vote. And then we got to budget later on, and I said, Janelle, what's this number? And she said, that's how it happened. And so the superintendent and I think the board, we made it very clear that we need to have the information sooner so that we have time to analyze the numbers before we vote. So you could have an increase, but it won't be for that reason. Again, am I correct? It was 1.5 because that
I
number.
think we were all pretty new during those days, and that came at us pretty fast. And Janelle's recommendation was, let's not do that. But if you want to dig in, if you want to dig into that a little deeper, I believe that there's some negotiated agreements that took place in there that we would cover some of that, perhaps. But then it came to you as a vote, and you could have or could not have. So that was just a really rough time. We've made corrections around that. Say we want that information to come to us sooner, and we've upheld on that. I don't know if it may not be my place, but maybe call out, Michonne, is that where is the kind of where's the staff at? What are you hearing right now, if you don't mind, Board Chair? No.
Can you hear me?
Do you want to speak to that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, like Superintendent Welch said, I go and visit schools, and what I do is I go and listen. I find out what's going on. And for many years, that was all over the place, lots and lots and lots of things. But really, the last couple of years, the main area of concern from members that I talk to is the health insurance and just the unpredictability. And while our CBA says that we are supposed to negotiate our contract after we get our health insurance information, we have not been able to do that in the last couple of times. And so we have 2 years ago, when we negotiated our contract, we did not know that we were going to have such a big increase to our premiums. And that was the year that I'm sure many of you remember, where people stood in front of you and told you about how their take-home pay was less, and they were dropping insurance and their take-home pay was still less, et cetera, et cetera. So I think what I hear that people are looking for is stability. We can predict, we know there are going to be increases. It's health insurance. There are going to be increases. What we'd like to be able to do is know if that's going to be closer to a 5% increase or closer to a 20% increase, because that's the kind of information we've been getting when we're going to bargaining lately is, well, they're talking about anywhere from 5 to 20%. That's a big difference. So that's what I hear. I mean, lots of people are happy with the narrow network. Some people would like, us to have more access to other to the other hospitals, which I think with Bridged, you would be able to get some of those better rates because they would be in our net, all these evergreen contracts, but I'm not positive about that. But overall, it really is the stability. Sorry to be so long-winded.
Thank you. We appreciate the input. Okay. All right. Wellness Committee.
We didn't have a meeting. You're welcome.
Hallelujah. All right. Montana School Board Association.
We did not have a meeting. Have one coming up though.
Did we happen to have any parent council visits? Okay. Do we have any final board comments?
I've got one. I just am thankful that these two students sat here in that entire insurance discussion and bored them to death. Because I know if I was 19 years old or 18, this would not be important. Like I've got tests to study for. So I appreciate you guys enduring through that. It will come back someday that you'll remember this.
It's really hard, especially with you as superintendent.
Exactly. That's why I said it. We appreciate you.
I would just say I enjoyed going to Kessler. So if there is an opportunity for board members to go, he did ask for certain groups to stand up, and he did actually call out the board. So I was glad I was there.
Yeah.
So that we had some representation. It was just good to hear what people were saying, and I did actually judge debate at Helena High. I roped one of my children into it, and I was just super impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Those kids were they had to help guide me because I wasn't exactly sure what I was doing. But gosh, if I told them, please keep going because we need you at like school board meetings in the future because they're just very thoughtful and you could see the critical thinking, and then someone would the argument in support, argument against, and they would pick up on each other's points. So just made me feel good to see the professionalism and the curiosity of the next generation.
I did as well. Great.
And this Richard had just sent me a picture and a text of Declan is just loving that insurance conversation. He was giggling and watching us all stumble through that. Lastly, my last comment is that I said it earlier. Think about, I hope we put in perspective tonight the work that's being done. It's not just about buildings and facilities and new roofs and whatnot. There's a lot happening in this district. And so I'm super proud of our district, our community, and the team that we have here at the district office supporting all of our staff and the relationship we have with the union. I think really good things are happening. There's a new energy that we see and we hear about. And so we want to keep capitalizing on that. And that starts here at the board level too. So thanks for your work.
I do want to just backtrack super quick. I did skip over the future meetings that we have. So I'm taking a look at what was provided for us. We have Wednesday, the 14th at 12 p.m. Teaching and Learning Committee is in here. And then on Friday, January 16th at noon, we have a special board meeting also located here and the Teams option available. And then January 27th at 5 p.m., we're going to have our work session at Capitol High.
And then I'm going to add one more because I want to bring the architects with the trustees to really have a roundtable discussion around, on 3 projects. So you can see it at a different level where you can really ask questions and see what's going on there. I don't. Candace and I will. The other one I think needs recognition is that Candace is like, I don't know how many more meetings I can schedule. So she's done a really great job of keeping me organized.
All right. With that, we are adjourned.
Great.